The pilot episode of Rick and Morty aired on December 2nd, 2013. It opened with a drunk old scientist crashing into his daughter's house at 4 in the morning, dragging his 14-year-old grandson out of bed, walking him to the garage, and pulling him into a small flying car with a faintly green light burning underneath it. The garage was already full of strange machines. The portal gun was already in the old man's coat pocket. The grandson was already terrified and confused. The show began as if it had been running for years before we tuned in, and we have been catching up ever since. That choice, to begin in the middle of a much older story, is the reason this show has the kind of plot holes we are going to walk through tonight. When you start a series with a man who has a portal gun, and a hidden garage full of clone bodies, and a dead wife in his past, and a daughter he abandoned for 20 years, and a grandson he has already begun to need, you build a foundation of off-screen history, and off-screen history is where contradictions live. Rick and Morty has been on the air for over a decade now. 7 seasons, almost 90 episodes, 2 voice actors silently replaced, 1 central villain killed and revealed and killed again, dozens of dimensions left behind, hundreds of small characters introduced and dropped. A girlfriend turned out to be a Federation agent. A Birdman turned out to be a cyborg. A daughter turned out to be a clone, or maybe not. A pickle turned out to be a vehicle for an extended joke that the show kept making for the rest of its run. Some of these contradictions are intentional. The writers like to say so in interviews. The flashbacks are unreliable. The narrator is unreliable. Rick himself is unreliable. The dimension we are in changes more than a few times. The viewer is supposed to lose the thread on purpose. That is the artistic position. It is also a useful shield, because when a fan brings up something that does not match, the writers can shrug and say, it was the point. Tonight we are going through every major plot hole the show has ever produced. Some of them are small, the kind you only notice on a 4th or 5th rewatch. Others are large enough to swallow an entire season. A few were set up with great care and never paid off. A few more were paid off and then contradicted by the next episode. Some are the reason the show is still interesting after 7 seasons. Some are the reason it is also exhausting. This is a long video. There is no need to follow every word. The lights can be low, the volume can be soft. You can rest your eyes. You can let the words drift past you. If you fall asleep 10 minutes in, this video will keep going for almost 2 more hours after that, and the holes will keep getting deeper. You are with channel name. Before we go further, the subscribe button is a small thing that helps the channel a lot. If you have enjoyed long, calm breakdowns like this one before, leaving the bell on means the next one will find you when it goes up. That is the only ask of the night. We can begin. The first plot hole is the smallest. It is also the one most fans miss, because it is hiding in the very first episode. In the pilot, Rick walks Morty into the garage and tells him about the seeds they are about to retrieve. He says the seeds, when crushed and mixed correctly, will make Morty smarter than Einstein. He says it casually, like a man who has done this before. He says it like a man who already knows the formula. And then for the next 90-odd episodes, the show never returns to that idea. The seeds are forgotten. The recipe is forgotten. The genius drug is forgotten. Morty stays Morty. The garage stays the garage. The seeds, whatever they were never important again. That is not the contradiction yet. That is the setup for the contradiction. Because 3 seasons later, Rick will give Morty a dozen genuinely intelligence-altering substances. He will give him a helmet that downloads new languages. He will give him a chip that uploads piloting skill. He will give him a bodysuit that makes him taller. He will give him fake memories that change his personality. And not once in any of those episodes does Rick or Morty say, hey, why don't we just take the seed formula? Why don't we just crush a few of those mega seeds and skip the helmet and the chip and the suit? The seeds existed. The formula existed. The show treated it as a one-time errand and then walked away from it forever. You can argue the show is being honest about its own scattered memory. You can argue Rick forgets things on purpose, because that is who Rick is. You can argue the seeds were never real, and Rick was lying to get Morty into the car. None of those arguments are wrong. The arguments are part of the show now. The show invites them. The show needs them, because without the fan in the comment section explaining the inconsistency away, the inconsistency is just a writer in a room 10 years ago thinking up a 1-episode plot device. That is what the seed formula was. That is what the show has been doing with its own setups since the very first scene. The second plot hole is one of the most famous, and it is right behind the first in the 5th episode of the first season, Meeseeks and Destroy. The episode introduces a small blue box that any human can use to summon a creature in a blue body who exists to complete one task. The creature is called a Mr. Meeseeks. The rule of the Meeseeks is stated very clearly, on camera, by Rick himself, in the opening minutes of the episode. Meeseeks are not born to live. They are born to complete a task and then vanish. Existence is pain for a Meeseeks. The longer a Meeseeks exists, the more painful that existence becomes. So a Meeseeks does the task fast, then the Meeseeks goes away. The episode runs this rule for Beth, who asks the Meeseeks to make her a more complete woman. The Meeseeks helps her, finishes the task in a few minutes, and vanishes. The episode runs it for Summer, who asks the Meeseeks to make her popular at school. The Meeseeks gives her a small confident speech. The task completes. The Meeseeks vanishes. The rule is solid. The rule has been demonstrated twice in the same episode. The rule is the engine of the episode. And then Jerry asks his Meeseeks to take 2 strokes off his golf game, and the rule breaks completely. Jerry's Meeseeks cannot finish the task, so Jerry's Meeseeks summons a second Meeseeks to help him. The second Meeseeks cannot finish either. The second Meeseeks summons a third. By the end of the episode, there are 20 or 30 Meeseeks in a restaurant, screaming, breaking things, pulling guns, holding patrons hostage, demanding that Jerry keep his head down on his backswing. The episode plays the chaos for laughs. The chaos is funny. The chaos is also the rule of the Meeseeks getting broken on camera in real time. A Meeseeks is supposed to vanish if it cannot complete the task. None of Jerry's Meeseeks vanish. They get angrier. They get bigger. They become a violent gang. They become a hostage crisis. They stay alive for hours, possibly for an entire day, while Jerry plays golf and freaks out and goes back and plays more golf. By the rule the show gave us, every one of those Meeseeks should have evaporated within minutes of being summoned. The reason they did not is that the writers needed the chaos. The reason the writers needed the chaos is that the chaos is funny. The rule was a setup for the chaos, and the chaos was the joke. The contradiction was the price. Fan theories about this one come in waves. One theory says that the rule is true only as long as the Meeseeks believes the task is possible. The moment the task feels impossible, the Meeseeks panics and tries to keep itself alive long enough to fix the problem. That is a clean theory. It is not what the show said. The show said existence is pain and the Meeseeks fade. Jerry's Meeseeks did not fade. They escalated. The escalation is the plot hole. The plot hole is also the only reason that episode is remembered, because if Jerry's Meeseeks had simply faded after a few minutes, there would have been no climax, no restaurant siege, no gunfight, no rescue, no song about being a Meeseeks. The contradiction is what made the episode good. The contradiction is also why the rule can never be used cleanly again. And the show has been careful not to bring back the box for any serious length of time. The box has appeared in the background of later episodes. The box has been used for a few quick jokes. The show has never built another full plot around it. The rule is too broken to build on. The third plot hole is bigger because it changes who the main characters are for the rest of the series. Rick Potion number 9, 6th episode of season 1. Rick gives Morty a love potion to slip to a girl he likes named Jessica. The potion mixes with a flu virus running through the school, and within an hour, every human on Earth except for Morty has become obsessed with him. Rick tries to reverse the potion. The reversal turns every human on Earth, except for Morty and Rick, into a misshapen creature that resembles the work of the artist David Cronenberg. The Cronenbergs cannot be reversed. The dimension is lost. Rick and Morty cannot stay in it. So Rick opens a portal to a nearby parallel Earth, where a version of him has just figured out how to fix the potion, but where both of them have just died in a freak explosion. Rick and Morty step over the bodies of their own corpses and slip into the other family. They bury their own bodies in the backyard. They never tell Beth or Summer or Jerry that the Rick and Morty those women remember are dead. They live the rest of the series, every episode after that one, as visitors in another family's life. That is one of the most consequential scenes in the entire run of the show. It is also one the show almost never returns to. Beth and Summer and Jerry, the Beth and Summer and Jerry we follow through 6 more seasons. are not the Beth and Summer and Jerry of Rick and Morty's birth dimension. The birth dimension is gone. It is full of Cronenbergs. The Beth and Summer and Jerry of the new dimension have lost a Rick and a Morty they spent 14 years and 20 years and 17 years with. They are grieving without knowing they are grieving. Their Rick and their Morty are in the dirt in their own backyard, and the new Rick and Morty are sitting at dinner with them, eating their food, sleeping in their beds, pretending nothing has happened. The show acknowledges this once. The end of Rick Potion number 9 ends on Morty staring at his own dead body in the dirt, frozen, while Rick tells him to relax and grab a beer and turn on the television. The episode after that, the show carries on as if the new family is the same family it has always been. The traumatic scene of burying yourself in your own backyard becomes a meme. The meme becomes part of the show's identity. The plot hole becomes a feature, and the show does not address this for years. The Beth, Summer, and Jerry we are watching after that episode are not, in any honest sense, the same people we met in the pilot. They are versions of those people from a parallel Earth, where a Rick and a Morty just died in front of them. They never grieved, they never noticed. They watched a Rick and a Morty walk in from outside, identical to the ones who just blew up in their garage, and they accepted those replacements without comment. The show needs you to accept the swap, because the show could not function if it had to track which dimension we were in. So it builds the swap into the foundation, and then never looks back at it. The Beth we follow through every Beth-heavy episode of the next 6 seasons is not the Beth who gave birth to the Morty, who ate breakfast in the pilot. The plot hole is the show. The 4th plot hole comes from the Season 1 finale, and is also where the show first started to build the citadel of Ricks. Close Rick counters of the Rick kind. In that episode, we learn that all of the Ricks across the multiverse have gathered themselves into one floating city. The city is called the Citadel. The Citadel is full of Ricks. It is also full of Mortys, because every Rick brings one. The Ricks govern themselves on a council. The council has a chamber, and the chamber has a long table, and the Ricks sit around the table and pass laws and execute other Ricks who break them. That is the world the show built for itself at the end of Season 1. That is the rule. The rule has a problem inside it. Every Rick on the council has a portal gun. Every Rick on the Citadel has access to portal fluid. Every Rick in the show, in every dimension, can portal anywhere at any time, by definition, because the portal gun is the thing that makes a Rick a Rick. And yet at the end of Season 2, our Rick lets the Galactic Federation arrest him on the lawn of his daughter's house and lock him in a prison that he cannot escape from. The Federation prison holds him for an entire summer. He sits in a cell, he talks to the guards, he waits. You can explain part of that. The Federation took his portal gun. The Federation drained his lab. Our Rick allowed himself to be captured because the alternative was watching his family die. Those are our reasons. They are not reasons that cover the rest of the council. There is an entire city of Ricks in another dimension with thousands of working portal guns, and not one of them shows up to break our Rick out. Not one Citadel Rick portals into the Federation prison to extract him. Not one Citadel Rick offers a deal. The Citadel sits there for the entire prison arc and does nothing. And then, when our Rick breaks himself out in the 3rd season premiere, by tricking the Federation into killing themselves over their own collapsed currency, the Citadel reacts by trying to assassinate him, not by being grateful that he just dropped the Federation single-handedly. The dropped premise is the rescue that never came. The Council of Ricks had a working interest in our Rick. The Council had thousands of portal guns. The Council did not move a finger. The show wants you to believe that the Citadel is a serious political body with rules and executions and elections. It is for the 4 or 5 episodes that need it to be, and then it is not for every other episode where its presence would have been inconvenient. The 5th plot hole is one Rick himself sets up and the show then ignores for years. Operation Phoenix. Big Trouble in Little Sanchez. Season 2, Episode 7. Rick and Beth have a fight, and to escape the fight, Rick transfers his consciousness into a teenage clone of himself. The clone is referred to as Tiny Rick. Tiny Rick is 14, beautiful, agile, popular, and slowly being driven mad by the original Rick screaming for release inside him. At the end of the episode, the family pulls Rick out of Tiny Rick. Tiny Rick dies on the table. Old Rick survives. The show treats this as the end of the story. The end of the story has a problem. To do Operation Phoenix, Rick had to grow an entire teenage clone of himself, fully formed, alive, with a working brain and working organs and working memories. The episode confirms on camera that this was not a single clone. Operation Phoenix is referred to as a program with multiple bodies. Rick has clone bodies stored somewhere. The show shows us one of them. The show implies there are more. In Season 3, Rick dies and is replaced with another version of himself. The show never explains where the replacement Rick came from. He simply shows up. He acts like nothing happened. In Season 6, in the episode called Solarix, Rick refers to the body swap process casually, like a man who has done it many times before. He talks about ditching one body and walking into another. The show has all the evidence it needs to admit, openly, that Rick is a man who can put himself into a fresh body whenever the current one wears out. The show has all the evidence it needs to say so. The show does not say so. The show keeps the clones in the background of one episode and never lets them affect the plot directly. This is one of the larger holes in the entire series, because if Rick can swap into a fresh body at any time, the stakes of every episode are different. The stakes of Rick getting shot are different. Rick falling down a hole no longer means what it should. Rick taking a fatal poison no longer means what it should. The stakes of Rick aging are different. The stakes of Rick's relationship with Morty, who Rick once told Morty depends on, for the safety of his brainwaves, are different. The show needs Rick to be mortal. The show needs Rick to be afraid of dying. Beth needs to be afraid of losing her father. So the show keeps the clone bodies off stage. The clone bodies are still there. The fan base knows the clone bodies are there. The fan base argues about which Rick is the Rick in the chair right now. The argument is the show. The sixth plot hole is the one Rick names himself in the pilot and never explains again. Morty's brainwaves cancel Rick's brainwaves. That is what Rick tells the Council of Ricks in Close Rick Counters of the Rick kind. He says he keeps Morty around because Morty's mediocre brain creates a cloud of dumb that hides Rick's genius from anyone scanning for it. The cloud is the reason Morty is in the car. The cloud is the reason Rick is dragging Morty out of bed at 4 in the morning instead of going on adventures alone. The cloud is also something the show contradicts almost immediately. In the next episode, Rick is alone on the screen for full sequences. In the episode after that, Rick goes on adventures with Summer. In the episode after that, Rick goes on adventures with Jerry. By Season 3, Rick spends entire episodes without Morty in the room, and nothing scans him, nothing finds him, nothing comes for him. The cloud is forgotten. The cloud is not the reason Rick keeps Morty around anymore. The reason Rick keeps Morty around is that Rick loves Morty, in his broken way. And the show has slowly moved into that truth as the years have gone on. The brainwave story was the cover. The love is the real answer. The show has been brave enough to admit the love. The show has not been brave enough to admit that the cover was a lie. So the cover sits in the pilot, unaddressed, contradicted every episode since, and the fan base keeps trying to fit it to the canon. The cloud is still there. The cloud also makes no sense. The seventh plot hole moves us into the second season, into the episode Total Recall, and into the strangest contradiction the show ever wrote. The episode opens with the family discovering that their house has been overrun with memory parasites. The parasites are creatures that hide in someone's mind by adding fake characters to that person's memory. The fake characters appear to have always been there. They are part of family photo albums. They are part of old jokes. They are part of every childhood memory anyone in the house has. The rule of the parasites, stated clearly by Rick in the first 10 minutes, is that the parasites can only create good memories. Anything bad you remember about someone has to be real. So the family begins killing everyone in the house whose memory is too sweet. They kill an uncle, they kill a cousin, they kill a friend, they kill an entire room of side characters who turn out to be parasites in disguise. Then at the end of the episode, Rick shoots Mr. Poopy Butthole. He shoots him in the gut because his memory of Mr. Poopy Butthole is too pleasant. Rick assumes the rule is the rule. The rule is not the rule. Mr. Poopy Butthole turns out to be real. He has been a friend of the family for years. Rick made a mistake. The episode ends with Mr. Poopy Butthole bleeding on the floor and the audience laughing because the show pulled a fast one on its own premise. That is the contradiction. The rule was given to us by Rick. The rule was the engine of the entire episode. The rule said bad memories prove the person is real. Then the rule was violated by Mr. Poopy Butthole's existence, because the family had only ever shared good memories of him, which means either the rule was wrong, or Mr. Poopy Butthole is a different kind of being that the rule does not apply to. The show never tells us which. The show plays the violation for a joke, and then walks away from it. The fan base has spent 10 years trying to fill the gap. Some say Mr. Poopy Butthole is a different species that simply produces no bad memories. Some say the family did have bad memories of him, and just did not surface them in time. Some say Rick was wrong about the rule from the start and was guessing. None of these are confirmed. The show needed the twist. The twist needed the rule to be wrong. The rule was wrong. The hole stays open. The 8th plot hole is one of the most fan-tracked. It involves Beth, the clone, and the question the show has never fully answered. At the end of season 3, in the Rick and Morty date, Beth confronts Rick. She has just been told that Rick may have replaced her with a clone of herself years ago. The show shows us Rick offering to do exactly that earlier in the season. We see Beth thinking about it. We see Rick walking into a basement with a tank in it. We see a Beth in the tank. What the show does not show us is which Beth got into the family car at the end of the episode. It does not show us which Beth has been on screen for the rest of the series. It does not tell us. For seasons 4 and 5, Beth is sometimes one Beth and sometimes two Beths. There is a Beth on Earth, with the family, raising the kids, fighting with Jerry. There is a Beth in space, leading a rebellion, fighting the Federation, having adventures we only sometimes see. In season 4, the two Beths meet. They sit down. They have a long conversation in the back garden. Neither of them admits she is the clone. Rick refuses to tell either of them. Rick claims he does not remember which is the original. Rick says he scrambled the records on purpose, so he would never be tempted to pick a favorite. The episode ends with both Beths agreeing to live with the uncertainty. That is a beautiful piece of writing. It is also a plot hole the show is too proud to close, because either there is a clone or there is not. Either the woman cooking breakfast every morning is the same woman Rick raised, or she is a copy of that woman with a different body, a different bloodstream, and a different history. The show treats the question as philosophical. The audience does not have the option of treating it as philosophical, because the audience watched Rick build the clone, watched the clone wake up, watched the clone leave the basement. The clone is real. The question is which one she is. The show refuses to answer the question. The refusal is the joke. The joke is also a hole that will never be filled, because filling it would mean choosing a Beth and writing the other one off, and the show is not interested in losing either Beth. The 9th plot hole is shaped like a missing person. Her name is Unity. She is a hive mind, an alien intelligence that takes over entire planets by assimilating the bodies of every living person on the surface. She is Rick's ex-girlfriend. The show introduces her in Season 2, Episode 3, Autoerotic Assimilation. She and Rick spend an episode together. They go on a bender. She takes over an entire planet for him. She paints the sky for him. They have what might be the most genuine emotional connection Rick has ever had on screen. At the end of the episode, Unity ends the relationship. She tells Rick she cannot be with him because he makes her worse. Rick goes home, gets drunk, and tries to kill himself. The end of that episode is one of the strongest single scenes in the entire run of the show. The build to it was patient. The fallout from it should have been enormous. The next time we see Unity is never. She does not come back in Season 3. She does not come back in Season 4. She does not come back in Season 5 or 6 or 7. A character built up to be Rick's most serious, romantic, and intellectual equal disappears from the show entirely after one episode. The show keeps writing about Rick's loneliness. It keeps writing about his failed relationships. It keeps writing about his fear of being seen. And it keeps avoiding the one character on whom all of those themes had already been built. You can argue the absence is the point. You can argue Unity walked away from Rick and the show is respecting her choice. You can argue Rick has not been ready to see her again. None of those arguments change the fact that the show invented one of its richest characters and then put her on a shelf. The Federation collapse later in the series should have reached her. The galactic events of Season 4 and 5 should have reached her. She is a planetary intelligence. The show has had planetary intelligences interact with each other in other episodes. Unity is a hole the size of a sky. The show keeps walking past it. The 10th plot hole is one Rick himself created and then chose to leave alive. The Ricks must be crazy. Season 2, Episode 6. Rick reveals that the battery powering his car is a tiny universe with a tiny planet inside it called the microverse. The microverse is full of intelligent beings who have spent generations developing a power source for themselves. The power source they developed feeds, without their knowledge, into Rick's car battery. So Rick has been silently draining the productivity of an entire civilization to keep his vehicle running. The civilization does not know about him. He does not care. The episode escalates. The microverse, run by a small alien scientist named Zeep, figures out it is being farmed. Zeep then builds his own mini-universe inside the microverse, with another civilization powering his version of Rick's plan. Rick portals into Zeep's mini-universe to break it. Inside Zeep's mini-universe, another alien scientist named Kyle has built another mini-universe inside that one. The episode ends with Rick threatening to expose all of them. The episode ends with a stalemate. The episode does not end with the microverse being freed. The microverse is still inside Rick's car battery. The planet is still draining its energy into Rick's engine. Zeep is still alive, still angry, still scheming. Kyle is still alive in his own universe inside that one. The chain of nested universes is still running. None of it ever appears in the show again. The show set up an entire society of intelligent beings whose civilization exists to power one man's car. The show then walked away from them. Zeep does not come back. Kyle does not come back. The microverse is never mentioned again outside of a few throwaway lines. Rick's car keeps running. The fan base assumes the microverse is still being farmed every time Rick drives anywhere. The show has not confirmed this. The show has not denied it. The show has simply set the universe aside. The way someone sets a glass down on a table and walks out of the room. The glass is still there. The microverse is still there. The show is not coming back for it. The 11th plot hole is small in size and large in meaning. Wubba lubba dub dub. In the first season, Rick uses the phrase as a catchphrase. He shouts it. He says it before commercial breaks. He says it on t-shirts the show is selling outside the screen. The phrase is fun, and it is nonsense, and it sounds like the cartoon dialogue of a man who does not take himself seriously. At the end of season 1, in the episode Rixie Business, the show plays the phrase straight in front of a character named Birdperson, who translates it. Birdperson tells Morty that, in his language, wubba lubba dub dub means I am in great pain, please help me. The audience finds out, in one line, that Rick has been silently screaming for years. That is a powerful moment. That is the moment the show changed its register. That is the moment Rick stopped being a fun grandpa and started being a man who could not stand to be alive. The moment was so powerful that the writers backed away from it. They never had Rick say the phrase again. They never had another character translate it again. They never put it on another t-shirt. The catchphrase that defined the first season has not been spoken on the show by Rick in any serious moment in the years since. The reason that is a hole is because the phrase did not stop being true. Rick is still in great pain. The show has built every season around that pain. Rick still drinks. Rick still threatens to kill himself. Rick still pushes his family away. Rick still tries to fix the universe and fails. Rick still loses everyone he loves. If the phrase was true then, the phrase is true now. The show stopped saying it because saying it became too heavy. So the show pretended it had never said it. The pain is still there. The phrase is gone. The fans say it for him. The show does not. The 12th plot hole was built into the show across multiple seasons before the show decided to undo it. Birdperson. Birdperson dies in the season 2 finale. The wedding squanchers, on his own wedding day, shot in the chest by Tammy, the Federation agent he had just married. The death is one of the heaviest deaths the show has staged. Rick screams, Morty cries. The wedding ends with bodies on the ground. In season 3, the Federation rebuilds Birdperson into a cyborg called Phoenixperson. Phoenixperson is a killing machine. Phoenixperson has no personality. Phoenixperson is a horror. Rick fights Phoenixperson, knocks him out, and walks away. The show holds Birdperson there, alive, mechanical, and silent, for the rest of season 3 and through season 4. The audience accepts that Birdperson is gone in any meaningful sense. Then in the season 6 premiere, Solarix, Rick changes his mind. He goes back to Phoenixperson, restores his biological body, and brings him back into the family. The episode is touching. The episode is also a long unwind of a plot the show spent 3 years building. Birdperson is alive again. The death from Season 2 no longer carries weight. The cyborg from Season 3 no longer carries weight. The horror from Season 4 no longer carries weight. The man is back. The trauma is gone. The show pretends the trauma was a story it was telling about Rick, not a story about the friend who actually died. You can argue that is a deliberate point about Rick. The trauma was always Rick's. The friend was the means of telling that trauma. Now that Rick has worked through some of his pain, the show is free to bring the friend back. That is a reading. It is not a reading the show puts on screen. The show puts a reunion on screen and asks the audience to be happy. The audience is happy. The death is also gone. You cannot have both a serious on-screen death and a casual, on-screen resurrection without something breaking. Something broke. The Birdperson arc broke. The death no longer counts. The show wants the death to still count for the emotional weight in flashbacks. The show wants the resurrection to count for the emotional weight in the present. Both cannot be true. Pick one. The show has not picked. You are still with channel name, and we are about halfway through the night. If the show has been on in the background while you have been falling towards sleep, that is the point of this format. There is no test at the end. The like button helps the channel without you having to think about it. And if you have made it this far, leaving a comment about the plot hole that bothered you most over the years is the kind of small thing that keeps these breakdowns coming back. Thank you for being here. The room is calm. The video keeps going. We are not done with the holes yet. The 13th plot hole sits inside one of the most popular episodes of the first 2 seasons. Morty Night Run, Season 2, Episode 2. Rick sells a weapon to an assassin in a duty-free space mall. The assassin is named Cronenberg Michael. Cronenberg Michael loves to kill. He sings about it. He drives a small white spaceship. He hugs Rick when the gun is handed over. Cronenberg Michael is alive on screen for about 90 seconds. Then he gets into his ship, flies to his target, and a gas creature inside the target's prison blows his ship up before he can pull the trigger. He dies. He has been the most fun side character of the season so far. The show kills him in the moment the audience is starting to like him. That is not the plot hole yet. The plot hole is what comes next. Cronenberg Michael never comes back. The show invents a perfect recurring villain, a hitman who loves his job, a friend of Rick's, a man with a wife and a house and a punch card of past kills, and the show throws him away in his first episode. Over the next 8 seasons, the show invents many one-off characters. Most of them are forgotten. Cronenberg Michael was not supposed to be forgotten. The fans loved him. The merchandise sold. There is an entire short on the official channel that is just Cronenberg Michael's day at home with his wife. The character earned a recurring slot. The show gave him a single episode. The contradiction here is small but real. The show treats certain characters as one-shots and certain characters as recurring. The choice is not based on how much the audience loved them. The choice is based on what the writer's room felt that week. Birdperson came back, died, came back as a cyborg, and then came back as a man. Cronenberg Michael died once and stayed dead. Squanchy died in the wedding scene, then turned up alive in Season 5 as if he had never died. Mr. Poopy Butthole gets shot once an episode and comes back smiling. The rules of who lives and who dies in this show are unsteady. The audience cannot trust them. The audience also cannot fully grieve, because the audience does not know what the rule is. Cronenberg Michael is dead. He is the smallest example of a larger problem. Almost no death in Rick and Morty is permanent. Almost no death feels heavy. The show wants the deaths to land. The deaths do not land, because the rule is broken, because the rule was broken from the first time Birdperson came back. The hole is the rule itself. The 14th plot hole is in the 2nd season finale and runs through the 3rd season premiere. Tammy, the Federation, the wedding, the collapse. The wedding squanchers ends with Birdperson on the ground, Tammy revealing herself as a Federation agent, the family scattering across the galaxy, and the Federation arresting Rick. Rick surrenders to save his family. That is the moment that ends the season. That is the moment the show built its entire 2nd year toward. Then the Rick Shank Rick-demption opens. Rick breaks out of Federation prison in the 1st act. He breaks out by tricking the Federation into devaluing their own currency. He breaks out by causing the galactic economy to collapse. He breaks out by destroying the largest empire in the multiverse with a piece of paper. The episode plays the breakout as a triumph. Rick walks out of the prison. The Federation falls. The galaxy turns from a Federation-controlled territory back into Rick's playground. The premise is reset. The show goes back to its first season status quo. That is the contradiction. The Federation was built up across the entire second season as the show's first serious external threat. The Federation took Rick away from his family. The Federation jailed our protagonist. The Federation killed Birdperson. The Federation was the entire reason for the season finale. The Federation falls in 20 minutes of screen time in the Season 3 premiere. By a trick Rick could have pulled at any point during his entire imprisonment. If Rick could collapse the Federation by manipulating their currency from the inside of a prison cell, with no equipment, using only his voice and his knowledge, then Rick could have collapsed the Federation at any time. The whole second season finale becomes a sequence of bad decisions on Rick's part. He surrenders to save his family. He does not need to surrender. He could have done what he eventually did from his garage. He could have done it from his armchair. The show needs you to forget that. The show needs the second season finale to feel like a tragedy, and the third season premiere to feel like a triumph. The show needs both. The show cannot have both, because both depend on the Federation being something Rick has a hard time defeating. The Federation was not hard to defeat. The Federation was a paperwork problem. The defeat was a paperwork solution. The whole is the season the show spent building the threat, knowing it could be erased on a whim. The 15th plot hole was created at the start of the show and never paid off. Snowball, Lawnmower Dog, the second episode of the first season. Rick gives the family dog, Snuffles, a small helmet that increases the dog's intelligence to human level. Snuffles, now able to speak, demands the dignity of being addressed by a name he chose for himself. He chooses Snowball because his fur is so pretty and so white. Snowball builds an army of intelligent dogs. The army takes over the house. The army comes very close to taking over the planet. At the end of the episode, Rick negotiates a settlement. The dogs leave Earth in a fleet of spaceships, headed for a new planet they will call their own. Snowball, before he leaves, promises he will look after the family from the stars. Snowball never comes back. The dogs never come back. The fleet never appears in the sky again. In the Season 7 episode about Jerry being lost in space, the dogs do not show up to help. In any episode about the family being in danger, the dogs do not show up to defend them. In any episode about Rick being old and alone, the dogs do not show up to keep their promise. The promise hangs in the air over the entire run of the show, unfulfilled. Snowball is alive somewhere, presumably on a dog planet, presumably with descendants, and the show has chosen not to revisit him. You can argue this is a stylistic choice. The show is built on dropped premises. The dropped premise is the show's signature move. That argument is true. It is also a way of dressing up a writing problem as an aesthetic preference. The truth is that the show set up a payoff, and then could not be bothered to give it. The Snowball arc was good. The Snowball arc had emotional weight. The Snowball arc ended on a promise. The promise did not need to be kept tomorrow. The promise needed to be kept eventually. The promise has not been kept. The promise will probably never be kept now, because Snowball has been off the show for so long that bringing him back would feel like a stunt rather than a callback. The window for paying off the promise has closed. The hole is the closed window. The 16th plot hole is the one about the toxic versions of Rick and Morty. Rest and Ricklaxation, Season 3, Episode 6. Rick and Morty enter a spa where the toxic parts of their personalities are filtered out and stored in a separate chamber. They walk out feeling clean. They are happier. Morty is more confident. Rick is more open. They go home. They have a good week. The episode could end there. The episode does not end there. The toxic Rick and the toxic Morty escape from the chamber and begin trying to merge themselves back into their original bodies against the wills of the cleaned versions. The episode escalates. The toxic Rick is a colder, more cunning version of Rick, with all of Rick's calculation and none of Rick's softness. The toxic Morty is a more cynical, more violent Morty, with all of Morty's resentment and none of Morty's confusion. The cleaned Rick and the cleaned Morty have to fight their own toxic halves to survive. At the end of the episode, the four of them merge, and the family goes back to normal. The episode is one of the better standalone hours of the show. The episode is also a contradiction at its center. The cleaned Rick is, by definition, the better version of Rick. The cleaned Morty is, by definition, the better version of Morty. The episode tells us that the toxic parts are real parts of who they are, and that without those parts, neither of them is fully himself. So the show's argument is that the bad parts of Rick are not detachable. The bad parts of Rick are Rick. Take them out, and you have a stranger. The same logic applies to Morty. So the cleaned versions, the versions that woke up after the spa, were not really them. The toxic versions were just as much them as the cleaned ones. The merge is the only way to get the real Rick and the real Morty back. That is a clean message. That is also a contradiction the show cannot live with, because the show keeps using this idea selectively. Other episodes treat Rick's toxicity as a flaw, something he can in principle outgrow. Other episodes treat Morty's resentment as a stage of life he is supposed to mature past. The spa episode says no. The spa episode says the toxicity is the man. If the toxicity is the man, then the entire emotional arc of the series, the arc where Rick learns to love and Morty learns to forgive, is built on a false premise. The toxicity will not melt away with character growth. The toxicity is part of the structure. The show wants both things at once. Either Rick can grow, or Rick's bad parts are inseparable from him. The show has not picked. The whole is the unanswered question, and the question is the show. The 17th plot hole is short and gentle, and is the one fans bring up the most over coffee. The Vat of Acid episode, Season 4, Episode 8. Rick gives Morty a small device. The device records the user's current physical state. When the user presses the button on the device a second time, the user reverts to that exact state, in the exact position they were in, with the exact memories they had at the moment of the first press. The device is, in plain terms, a save game function for life. Morty uses it to do all the things he has always wanted to do. Dating women, robbing stores, kissing strangers, living 100 small lives, knowing he can rewind. The episode is funny. The episode is also a piece of equipment that, if it existed in the show's universe, would change every episode after this one. The device is never used again. Rick does not use it to undo any of the deaths he experiences. Rick does not use it to save Birdperson, or to save Phoenixperson, or to save any of the unnamed allies who die in season after season. Morty does not use it to undo any of the mistakes he makes. Morty does not use it when he is about to die. Morty does not use it when his family is about to die. The device is in a drawer somewhere, presumably in Rick's garage, presumably with all the other one-episode inventions. The whole is the drawer. The plain reading is that Rick gave the device to Morty as a single lesson. The lesson was about consequences. The lesson was that having a redo button is a curse, because you can never trust your own choices once you know they can be undone. Morty learned the lesson. The device was a learning tool. The device served its purpose, and the device is now gone. That is the in-show explanation. It is a thin one. The device was not destroyed. The device was not lost. The device, as far as we know, sits somewhere in the house. The fans assume it. The fans count the deaths that could have been undone and were not. The list grows every season. The drawer never gets opened. The 18th plot hole is sitting inside the Pickle Rick episode, and almost nobody notices. Pickle Rick. Season 3, Episode 3. Rick turns himself into a pickle to avoid going to a family therapy session. The episode escalates into one of the most famous action sequences the show has ever done, with Rick rebuilding himself into a body made of dead rats and sewer parts, and fighting his way out of a Russian crime den. The set piece is wonderful. The set piece is also a writer's room solution to a writer's room problem. The problem is the original premise. Why did Rick need to become a pickle to avoid the therapy? The episode tells us Rick turned himself into a pickle to prove to his daughter that he could do it. He set up a clever trap with the antidote on a timer in the garage, knowing that Beth would not notice. The trap fails when Beth notices and takes the antidote with her. So Rick is stuck as a pickle for the day. That is the in-text reason. The reason has a hole in it. Rick could simply have said no to the therapy. Rick has said no to therapy before. Rick has said no to Beth before. Rick is not a man who is afraid of his daughter's disapproval. Rick is a man who lives in his daughter's garage. He could have walked into the garage, locked the door, and refused to come out. He chose instead to turn himself into a vegetable in order to make the refusal physical. That is the contradiction. The episode wants you to believe Rick is afraid of confrontation with Beth. The rest of the show wants you to believe Rick is afraid of nothing. The Pickle Rick gambit only makes sense if Rick is, at his core, terrified of his daughter's love. If he is, then the rest of the show should reflect that. The rest of the show only sometimes does. The whole is the inconsistency between the man in the pickle episode and the man in every other episode. The pickle episode reveals a vulnerability the show otherwise hides. The show then hides that vulnerability again the next week. The pickle returns in shorts, in memes, in merchandise. The pickle does not return in the text of the show as something Rick has to live with. The vegetable was a confession the show only meant to make once. The 19th plot hole is The Vindicators. Season 3, Episode 4, Vindicators 3, The Return of Worldender. Rick gets dragged into a superhero team-up against his will. The team is a parody of every superhero ensemble that has ever been on screen. Each member has a power. Each member has a backstory. Each member is a friend of Morty's. Rick gets drunk during the mission. While drunk, Rick clears out the villain's base, sets up a series of traps to humiliate the Vindicators for fun, and then passes out. When the team enters the base, they are forced to play through Rick's traps. The traps kill them one by one. By the end of the episode, the entire team is dead except for one member, Noob, who survives because Rick liked him. That is a complete story arc for an entire superhero ensemble done in one episode. 6 characters introduced, 6 characters killed off except for Noob, who survives. The Vindicators were set up as recurring. The Vindicators had merchandise. The Vindicators had teasers. The Vindicators were the show's largest joke about superhero culture. The show killed them off in their first appearance. The contradiction here is structural. The show keeps building team-ups and then killing the teams. The Vindicators died once. The Galactic Federation died once. The Citadel of Ricks was destroyed in the Season 5 finale. Every large institution the show has built has been demolished within a season or 2 of being introduced. The pattern is so consistent it stops feeling like an accident. The show is unable to maintain a recurring organization. The show invents an organization, runs an episode about it, and then destroys it. The fans love the episodes. The fans also notice that there is no recurring world. The world resets between adventures. The world cannot accumulate. The plot hole is the lack of accumulation. The show wants to feel epic. The show keeps erasing its own scope. The 20th plot hole is one that hides in plain sight across every season. Beth and the Space Adventure. Beth, after the clone episode, leaves Earth in Season 4. She joins a galactic resistance. She fights against the Federation. She raises a war on multiple fronts. She does this for some indefinite period of time. Then she comes back. She comes back, and the family does not change. Jerry forgives her quickly. Summer asks her a few questions. Morty barely notices. The kids do not ask what she did. The kids do not ask who she killed. The kids do not ask what kind of person she is now. The mother who left as a suburban veterinarian comes home as a guerrilla commander, and the family treats it like she went on a long business trip. That cannot work. A person who has fought in a war is not the same person who left. A person who has killed in space is not the same person who used to put horse implants into mares for a living. A person who has been gone for an unknown period of subjective time, possibly years from her own perspective, would come back changed. The show treats her as unchanged. She slips back into the kitchen. She slips back into the marriage. She slips back into the small talk. The trauma of the war does not appear in her face. The body count does not appear in her hands. The years do not appear in her voice. The show needs Beth to be Beth, the Beth we have always known. So the show writes her back in as if nothing happened. You can argue this is because the clone Beth is the one we are watching. You can argue this is because Beth is at her core, the kind of person who can compartmentalize. You can argue this is because the show is not interested in long-form character change. None of those arguments are wrong. None of those arguments make the moment in the kitchen work. The moment in the kitchen is a woman who has come home from a war and is being asked to pass the salt. The fact that she passes the salt without comment is the plot hole. The plot hole is the show. The 21st plot hole is the one nobody believes is a plot hole because nobody believed the setup, the death crystals. The 5th season episode about the crystals that show the user their possible deaths. Morty finds one, he uses it. He sees a future in which he dies as an old man in bed with the girl he likes, Jessica, by his side. He decides that the future is the future he wants. He spends the rest of the episode trying to make every choice line up with that future. The episode ends with Morty having survived a series of near-deaths, with the crystal in hand, and with the question of which future is real left open. The crystal is then put away. The crystal does not come back. Morty's future with Jessica does not come back. The girl named Jessica does not really come back, beyond a few small moments. The whole premise of the episode, the idea that there is a knowable future and that the protagonist might choose his way toward it, is dropped. The show goes back to the way it was. Morty becomes a different person from the man he saw in the crystal. The crystal was a lie then. The crystal showed a future that was never going to happen. The fanbase has spent years arguing whether the crystal lied to Morty, or whether the future is still on the table, or whether Morty already lost the chance the moment the episode ended. The show has not weighed in. The crystal is in a drawer. The drawer is the show. The 20-second plot hole is the one prophecy the show set up and never came back to, the true Morty. The first season finale of the show takes us to the citadel of Rick's, and on the way through the citadel, we see Mortys living in the equivalent of refugee housing, working menial jobs, struggling to be heard. In the background of one scene, a Morty stands on an upturned crate and tries to speak to the other Mortys gathered around him. He starts to preach. He says he is sick of being treated as accessory to his Rick. He says there must be one Morty who is more important than the others, a true Morty, around whom the rest of them can gather, a true Morty who can lead them out of the citadel. The Mortys listen, the Mortys whisper. The scene cuts away before the speech ends. That preacher is named Sleep Morty in some versions of the script, Cult Morty in others. The point is that the show built, in the background of a single episode, the seed of a religion. The seed of a religion among Mortys. The promise of a chosen one. The kind of setup other shows would spend 3 seasons paying off. Rick and Morty has not paid it off. The true Morty has not been revealed. The cult Morty has not returned. The religion has not been mentioned. The citadel of Rick's has been blown up and rebuilt and blown up again. And during all of that turmoil, the prophecy of the true Morty has not surfaced once in the actual text of the show. The fanbase has spent the years since arguing about it. Some fans think evil Morty is the true Morty, and that the season 5 finale is the prophecy being fulfilled. Some fans think the true Morty is our Morty, and that the show is slowly walking toward a coronation episode. Some fans think the true Morty is the Morty we saw preaching, and that he will return one day as a major antagonist. Some fans think the true Morty was a throwaway joke, and the show should be left alone about it. None of these are confirmed. The show has not weighed in. The prophecy is on a shelf. The shelf is the show. You could argue that Evil Morty's victory in the season 5 finale was the resolution. Evil Morty, after planning his escape across 4 seasons, broke the central finite curve and walked out of the multiverse the writers had been working inside. That is a coronation in a sense. He sat in the seat, he cut the cord, he left the citadel behind him. If he is the true Morty, the prophecy was fulfilled by a Morty who hated his Rick more than he loved any of the other Mortys. The show has not framed it that way. The show has framed Evil Morty's victory as a personal victory, not a religious one. The other Mortys did not gather around him. The Mortys he saved were not even told who he was. The prophecy was about a Morty who would lead the Mortys. Evil Morty did not lead the Mortys. Evil Morty walked away alone. So either he is not the true Morty, or the prophecy was something different from what the season 1 finale implied. The show has not picked. The whole is the unanswered question, and the question has been open for almost a decade. The 23rd plot hole is the one that hides inside a single line in season 4, Roy, a life well lived. The arcade game from the 2nd season, the one where Rick climbs inside a helmet and lives out a man's entire life as a carpet salesman named Roy, where he can take damage in the game and come back to it years later having lived 60 years in Solitude, while only minutes pass outside. The game appears in the 2nd season. Roy is treated as a 1-episode joke. Then in the 4th season, the game returns. Rick plays Roy again. Roy is a different man this time. Roy has a different family. Roy has a different death. The same arcade machine, the same helmet, the same brand name, produces a completely different simulation the second time around. That is a small thing. That can be explained. The game probably randomizes the life it generates. The game probably picks a new Roy each session. The game probably draws from a vast pool of possible Roys. The fan base accepts all of these explanations. They are reasonable. The hole is not in Roy. The hole is in Anatomy Park, the third episode of the first season. Rick has, inside the body of a homeless man, built a microscopic theme park called Anatomy Park, which is run by a small team of scientists, and the head of those scientists is also named Roy. The Roy of Anatomy Park is a man, alive, with a job, with a life, with a story arc that takes place inside the human body. The Roy of the arcade is a digital construct in a video game. The two have nothing to do with each other. They are not the same character. They are not the same universe. They are not the same kind of being, but they have the same name. In a show as careful with its callbacks as Rick and Morty, naming two unrelated characters across two unrelated episodes, the same thing is the kind of choice that invites the fan base to find a connection. The fans have looked. The fans have not found one. The two Roys are unrelated. The naming is either a coincidence or a joke. The show has not confirmed which. The hole is the open question. The question of whether the two Roys are the same Roy in different scales. The way a man in a microverse might also be a man in a game. The way one universe might be nested inside another. The show has hinted at nested universes before. The show has shown us the microverse inside the battery. The show has shown us Kyle's universe inside Zeep's universe inside Rick's car. So the idea of a man living in two scales at once is not foreign to the show. The Roys could be the same Roy. The show has not confirmed it. The show has not denied it. The connection lives in the comment sections, where it has lived for a decade now. The plot hole, if it is a plot hole, is the name. The name was a clue, or the name was a coincidence. The show has not decided which. The 24th plot hole is the one in the 5th season premiere, the one with the merman, the one called Mr. Nimbus. Mort Dinner Rick Andre. The episode introduces a sea god named Mr. Nimbus. Nimbus is, in his own words, the ruler of the police. The police, all of the police on Earth, the police of the Galactic Federation, the police of every dimension we have ever seen, the police as an institution. He claims to control them. Rick treats his claim seriously. Rick treats Mr. Nimbus as an old foe. Rick negotiates with Mr. Nimbus to keep him from sending the police after the family. The episode plays the claim as if it is real. The claim is real. In the text of the episode, Mr. Nimbus controls the police. That is a heavy world-building load to drop into a 5-minute conversation. The police, every police force the show has ever shown, are under the control of one man who lives in the sea. That is a fact about the universe of Rick and Morty. That is a fact that should affect every episode after that one. Every time a cop shows up in a scene, the cop is, in some sense, working for Mr. Nimbus. Every time the Galactic Federation cracks down on Rick, the Federation police are taking orders from Mr. Nimbus. Every time a small-town sheriff appears in the background of a flashback, the sheriff is part of Mr. Nimbus's army. The show built itself a new bottom layer of authority in 5 minutes. The show has not used that layer. Mr. Nimbus comes back in 1 or 2 later episodes. He shows up at parties. He shows up at events. He is treated as a recurring side character, not as the puppet master behind every uniform. The police continue to appear in scenes without any reference to him. Rick continues to fight cops without invoking him. The Federation continues to operate as if it has its own hierarchy. The seed the show planted in the 5th season premiere has not sprouted. The claim is in the text. The implications are not. You can argue Mr. Nimbus was bluffing. You can argue Rick humored him for diplomatic reasons. You can argue the police he controls is a narrower group than the dialogue implied. None of those arguments are in the show. The show told us. The show built the claim, and the show then walked away from it. The next time you watch a cop appear in any Rick and Morty episode, the cop is, according to the established lore of the show, under the command of a sea god in a green singlet. The lore is the lore. The hole is the lore not being used. The 25th plot hole is the bird one, the one where the show changed its mind. Birdperson, the cyborg version of Birdperson, sat in a Federation prison for half a season. Birdperson was rebuilt from the corpse of Birdperson after the wedding. Birdperson was a weapon. Birdperson was not a man. Birdperson was operating on Federation programming. When Rick goes back to free him in the 6th season premiere, the show has to retroactively explain what was happening inside Birdperson during all those years. The explanation, as best the show offers it, is that Birdperson's consciousness was still in there, somewhere, waiting to be pulled out. That works as a redemption arc. That does not work as continuity, because during the entire third and fourth season, Finite appears, in the background of various scenes, as a Federation enforcer. He kills people, he follows orders, he acts the part of a soldier. If Birdperson's consciousness was inside him during all of that, then Birdperson was complicit, in some way, in the killings. If Birdperson's consciousness was not inside him during all of that, then there was nothing to pull out in the 6th season premiere. The show wants both. The show wants the killings to be the Federation's fault, the work of a body without its mind. The show also wants Birdperson, restored, to be the same man Rick lost at the wedding, with his memories intact, his love intact, his self intact. You cannot have both. Either the mind was in there during the kills, or there was no mind to recover. The show treats the recovery as a triumph. The triumph erases the kills. The kills are still on screen. The whole is the gap between what we saw Finite do and what the show now wants us to believe was happening on the inside. The fans have built theories around this. The kindest theory is that Birdperson's mind was suspended during the Federation years, frozen, unaware, locked away, and was only accessible by someone like Rick who knew where to find it. That theory works. That theory is not on screen. The show implied it but did not confirm it. The conversation we needed to have between Birdperson and Rick after the rescue about what Finite did while Birdperson was unconscious never happens. The show writes around it. The friend is back. The kills are forgotten. The hole stays open underneath them. The 26th plot hole is the snakes. Rattlestar Ricklactica. Season 4, Episode 5. Rick and Morty discover an entire civilization of snakes that has developed time travel. The snakes use time travel to wage their wars. Rick eventually intervenes to prevent the snakes from destroying their own timeline. By the end of the episode, the snake civilization has been wiped from existence, and the timeline is reset. The remaining snakes are just normal snakes, with no history of intelligence, no history of war, no history of time travel. That is one of the more satisfying endings to any episode of the show. The cause is clean. The effect is clean. The implication is that the snake society is gone for good. The implication is wrong. In the season finale that same year, snakes appear again in the background. In subsequent seasons, snakes appear in the background. The snakes appear as recurring background gags, as if the species had survived the timeline reset. The show is treating snakes as just snakes, which is fine, but the audience knows that this dimension also had a snake civilization that was wiped out. Are the snakes we are seeing the surviving descendants of the wiped out civilization? Are they a different species entirely? Are they the same snakes from before the reset, somehow grandfathered into the new timeline? The show has not addressed this. The show treats snakes as a punchline now. The snakes the show is laughing at are the descendants of the dead civilization, or the unrelated cousins of that civilization, or the same snakes the show erased a season earlier. The reset was supposed to be clean. The reset was not clean. The snakes are still here. The plot hole is the dirt left behind by what was meant to be a clean ending. The 27th plot hole is the one that should bother people most and somehow does not. Mr. Frundles. The dimension abandonment. In the season 6 finale, Rick and the family wake up in a dimension where everything they touch turns into a small creature named Mr. Frundles. The creatures spread. The infection consumes everything. The family is forced to portal away to a new dimension where a different version of themselves has just died. The family steps into the lives of those other dead selves and pretends to be them. The episode ends with the family eating breakfast in a new house, in a new dimension, with new memories of dead family members buried in the yard, and pretending nothing happened. That is the third time. That is the third time the family has done this. The first time was the Cronenberg dimension at the end of the first season. The second time was when the Rick and Morty we have been following moved across dimensions in subtle ways through the second season. The third time is Mr. Frundles. Each time, the family abandons a dimension that has become too broken to live in, slips into the bodies of dead doubles in another dimension, and resets their lives. Each time, the show pretends this is a fresh trauma. The trauma is no longer fresh. The trauma is the rule. The family has done this so many times that the in-show explanation for it should be a major plot point. The explanation is not. The show resets. The family eats breakfast. The audience laughs because the breakfast looks like the breakfasts before. The whole is the lack of accumulation. The family should be broken. The family should be 3 layers of grief deep, all of them grieving the wrong people. The show treats every reset as the same kind of small joke. The grief never builds. The grief was never going to build. Because if it built, the show would have to slow down and feel something. The show is not in a hurry to feel anything for very long. The audience is asked, again, to laugh at the breakfast. The audience laughs. The hole stays open. The 28th plot hole is the meta one, the story lord. Mort Dinner, Rick, Andre, and the Train. The 5th season episode about a story train that runs on narrative momentum, where the antagonist is a being called the Story Lord, who wants to feed on the audience watching the show. The episode breaks the 4th wall on purpose. The episode is about its own structure. The episode ends with the Story Lord defeated and trapped inside an unfinished story, where he cannot escape because he cannot complete his own arc. That is a clever ending. That is also an ending that should have changed. If the universe of Rick and Morty contains a being who feeds on the narrative attention of an audience, and if that being can be defeated by breaking the rules of his own story, then the show has built a metaphysical layer underneath itself. Every episode of the show, from the perspective of that being, is food. Every viewer of the show is a participant in the feeding. The implications are enormous. The implications in the show are 0. The story lord does not come back. The story train does not come back. The 4th wall does not break again in any meaningful way. The episode resolves and the show moves on as if the metaphysical layer was a single joke that did not change the world. The world should have changed. The world did not change. The story lord is in a cell somewhere, unfinished, still waiting, still feeding on the unresolved part of his story. The show has not let him out. The show has not let him in either. The hole is the meta layer the show built, and then refused to climb. The 29th plot hole is the one with the cat, Squanchy. Squanchy was at the wedding. Squanchy was a guest at the wedding when Tammy revealed her true colors. Squanchy was, on screen, gunned down or torn apart, or in some way mortally wounded during the carnage. The audience watched it happen. The audience grieved in the small way the show allows for grief during a fast-paced action sequence. Squanchy was gone. Then in the 5th season, Squanchy is alive. He shows up at a party. He shows up at a club. He shows up in flashbacks. He is, in every appearance, the same cat, with the same voice, with the same problems, with the same loosely defined drug addiction. The show treats his presence as normal. The show does not pause to explain how he survived. The show does not show us his recovery. The show does not even hint at a near-death experience. He is just there again, as if the wedding had not happened. You can argue the wedding survival is part of the world building. The wedding was chaos. People may have escaped without being seen. Squanchy may have hidden in a corner. Squanchy may have been a survivor all along, and the show simply did not focus on him during the immediate aftermath. That is a reading. That is a generous reading. The wedding scene, when you go back and watch it, very clearly shows Squanchy being attacked. The wedding scene very clearly suggests that he did not walk away. The show may have changed its mind later. The show may have decided, retroactively, that Squanchy was always going to come back. That is the kind of decision a long-running show makes when it realizes it likes a side character it had previously written off. The decision is allowed. The decision is also a contradiction. The wedding said Squanchy died. The later seasons say Squanchy lived. Pick one. The show has not picked. The cat is in a club somewhere, hosting a party, in a body that should have been a corpse. The fan base has lived with it for years. What that contradiction reveals is the larger problem with death in the show. The show stages deaths with all the weight of real deaths. The show then revives the dead when it suits the writers. The show does this for Birdperson. The show does this for Squanchy. The show does this for Mr. Poopy Butthole. The show does this for several Mortys and several Ricks across the Citadel arc. The audience has been conditioned, over almost 90 episodes, to never trust a death. The deaths still happen. The grief is still asked for. The grief is still given. And then the dead come back, and the grief is retracted. The whole is the pattern. The pattern is the inability of the show to commit to consequences. Every death is provisional. Every loss is recoverable. The stakes the show is asking for are stakes the show has already shown it will not honor. the audience plays along, mostly because the audience loves the show. The audience plays along, but the audience is no longer surprised by either the deaths or the resurrections. The whole has become the texture. The 30th plot hole is the one about the Federation that fell, and then somehow did not. The end of the third season premiere shows the Galactic Federation collapsing economically and politically as a direct result of Rick's actions. The Federation prison empties. The Federation soldiers disperse. The Federation flag is lowered. The galaxy is meant to go back to being Rick's playground, free of the central authority that had been ruling it for 700 episodes worth of off-screen history. That is the way the third season premiere ends. The Federation comes back, not in a triumphant return arc, not in a slow rebuilding. The Federation simply appears in later episodes as if it had never fully collapsed. Federation soldiers are still around. Federation technology is still in use. Federation prisons are still functioning. Federation contracts are still being honored across the galaxy. The collapse, which was sold to us as a total economic implosion, somehow allowed the Federation to remain a functional organization in the background of half the episodes that came after. The show has not addressed this directly. The implication, when the show wants there to be one, is that the Federation reformed. The Federation found new currency. The Federation rebuilt itself in some smaller form. The implication, at other times, is that the Federation was always something more loose than the third season premiere implied, and that the collapse was a localized event. The show wants the Federation to be defeated when the plot needs a triumph, and present when the plot needs an obstacle. The show wants both. The Federation is both. The Federation is, in any given episode, exactly as strong as the writers need it to be. That is not a contradiction the show can easily fix, because the show built its world around the Federation being a major threat, and then chose to defeat that threat in 20 minutes of screen time. There was no way to keep the Federation around as a recurring antagonist after a defeat that complete. The show defeated the Federation because the show wanted the catharsis. The show kept the Federation around because the show needed the texture. The two impulses are at war. The war shows up in the inconsistency. The audience is asked to remember that the Federation fell, while also accepting that the Federation is still operational. Both things are true in the show. Both things cannot be true outside of the show. The whole is the gap between the catharsis and the texture, and the show is too committed to both to close it. The 31st plot hole is the largest single hole in the entire run, because it changes the structure of the show. The central finite curve, the end of the 5th season, Rick, Morty, Jack, Evil Morty, after planning for years across multiple appearances, finally tells Rick what the multiverse is. The multiverse, he reveals, is not infinite. The multiverse the show has been operating inside has been a curated slice of all possible dimensions, hand-picked by the Council of Ricks, to include only those dimensions in which a Rick is the smartest being. The dimensions in which a Rick is not the smartest, in which a Beth is the smartest, or a Jerry is the smartest, or no Smith family exists at all, have been walled off. The wall is the central finite curve. The wall has been there since before the show began. Every adventure Rick has ever had has been inside this curated slice. Evil Morty breaks the wall. He breaks it dramatically. He breaks it with the Citadel as ammunition. He breaks it, walks through, and the central finite curve collapses. The wall is gone. The multiverse Rick has been living in is open to every other multiverse. The show, by the rules of its own Season 5 finale, is now operating in a different universe than it was before. The audience has watched the wall come down. The show, after that finale, behaves as if nothing changed. Season 6 begins. Season 6 continues. Season 6 is about the family being upset with each other. Season 6 is about a few new adventures. Season 6 does not feel the consequences of the central finite curve being broken. The show acts as though the wall was a small thing, or as though the wall has somehow reformed, or as though the wall was never as important as Evil Morty made it seem. The break does not echo. The break does not change anything. The break, which was sold as the largest plot point in the entire show, has had no measurable effect on any episode after it. That is the largest hole in the show, the largest single discontinuity. The show built 5 seasons toward this reveal, then put the reveal on screen, then walked past it. The audience has spent the years since waiting for the consequences to land. The consequences have not landed. The Citadel is gone, yes. The Council is gone, yes. The Mortys are scattered, yes. But the multiverse outside the central finite curve, the universe the show told us we were now in, has not appeared. We have not met a Beth who was the smartest. We have not met a Jerry who was the smartest. We have not met a single person from outside the curve. The wall came down, and the world on the other side has not arrived. The show is operating, in season 6 and 7, as if it is still inside the curve. Either the curve was somehow restored off screen, or the show has chosen not to deal with the implications of its own finale. The show has not told us which. The whole is the missing season. The season that should have come after the wall came down. The season we have not been given. The 30-second plot hole is the cumulative one. The family, the Smith family's memory. Across 7 seasons, the Smith family has been through dozens of horrific adventures. Beth has watched her father die multiple times. Summer has been physically transformed against her will several times. Morty has buried his own corpse, lived through alternate timelines, watched his girlfriend die, watched friends die, killed people, helped kill people, been kidnapped, been mind-controlled, been turned into a teenager again, been turned into a baby again. Jerry has been through a divorce, through a near divorce, through a war, through a Federation jail. The list of traumas this family has accumulated is, by any honest accounting, the trauma load of a war-zone village rather than a suburban household. The family is not broken. The family is, by the end of the 7th season, more or less the same family it was in the 1st season. Beth still cooks dinner. Jerry still embarrasses himself at parties. Summer still scrolls on her phone. Morty still goes to school. The family eats together. The family argues. The family sleeps. The family is intact, structurally, in a way that no real family with this trauma load would be. The show treats this as normal. The audience treats this as normal. The audience has been trained, over 7 seasons, to not expect lasting damage from the adventures. The adventures are weekly. The adventures are big. The adventures end. The family resets. The next adventure begins. That is the largest hole in the show, the one that hides because it is everywhere. The hole is the lack of trauma. The hole is the lack of accumulation. The hole is the way the show, every Sunday, pretends that the week before was a separate episode and not a permanent change. The show wants to be both a sitcom and an epic. A sitcom resets each week, an epic accumulates. The show is trying to do both. The whole is the seam. You can argue this is the genre. You can argue this is animation. The show on its own terms treats this as fine. You can argue, with some support from the show, that the family has been replaced enough times, across enough dimensions, that the trauma is genuinely not the same trauma anymore. None of those arguments fully cover the moments where the show wants us to feel the weight of an old loss, and we cannot, because the show has not let the loss accumulate. The death of Tammy, the death of Birdperson, the wedding, the Federation, the clone reveal, the Cronenberg dimension, Mr. Frundles. The show wants these losses to land. The show also wants the next episode to start fresh. Both things are not stable together. The whole is the impossibility of holding both. The 33rd plot hole is the one in the president's mind. The 3rd season finale. The Rick Morty date. Rick and Morty work for the President of the United States. The president is the same president in many episodes. The episode ends with the president and Rick having a falling out, and Rick wiping the president's memory of him. The president wakes up the next morning with no idea who Rick is. The Smith family resumes its regular life. Status quo restored. The status quo after that erasure makes no sense. The president is a public figure. The president's chief of staff knows Rick. The president's Secret Service team knows Rick. The president's Joint Chiefs know Rick because Rick has met them in earlier episodes. The president's wife knows Rick. The country, in general, knows about Rick because Rick has been to public events with the president. You cannot erase one man's memory and undo the public record of his existence. Rick exists in news articles. Rick exists in security footage. Rick exists in the official photographs taken at White House events. Erasing the president's memory does nothing about any of that. The show pretends it does. The next time the president appears on the show, he treats Rick as a stranger. The chief of staff also treats Rick as a stranger. The Secret Service treats Rick as a stranger. The entire administration has had its memory wiped in some way, off-screen, by a procedure that was never shown to us. The audience is asked to accept that the memory wipe extended, somehow, to every person who had ever interacted with Rick in an official capacity. The audience is asked to accept this without any explanation. This is the show being lazy about its own canon. The show wanted Rick to break with the president. The show wanted the president to be a fresh stranger if he ever came back. So the show wiped the relationship clean, off-screen, with an implied erasure that should not be possible by the rules the show has set up. The fan base has tried to fill the gap. Some fans say Rick used a memory device on every member of the administration. Some fans say the president never really knew Rick, that all the prior interactions were with a Rick decoy. Some fans say the president is a different person now. None of these are confirmed. The show carries on. The whole is the assumption that one man's forgetting can erase a public history. The assumption is wrong. The show needs it to be right. So the show acts as if it is right and does not look down. The 34th plot hole is one of the saddest. Diane, Rick's wife, the mother of his original daughter, killed by a bomb in a flashback the show has shown us in different forms multiple times. The first version of the flashback we get suggests she was killed by another Rick in a war between Ricks. The second version of the flashback we get, much later in the show, names that other Rick as Rick Prime, who becomes the major antagonist of the 6th season. The two versions of the flashback are roughly consistent. They are not exactly consistent. The first version is murkier on whether Diane was the target or collateral damage. The second version makes her the target. The first version is murkier on whether the original Beth was killed alongside her. The second version makes that clearer. The shifts are explained, sort of, by the unreliable nature of Rick's memory. Rick is an unreliable narrator. Rick remembers things the way he can stand to remember them. So the early flashbacks are softer than the later flashbacks, because the early Rick was still hiding the truth from himself. That works as a character explanation. That does not work as a continuity explanation, because the audience saw the early flashbacks. The audience formed beliefs about what happened. The audience now has to revise those beliefs, retroactively, based on a later flashback. The early information is no longer canon. The early information was the show lying to us, on the grounds that Rick was lying to himself. That is a clean way to handle a retcon. That is also a way of giving the writers permission to change the past whenever they want. Anything the show has ever shown us in a flashback can be reframed later as Rick's unreliable memory. Anything Rick has ever said about his past can be discarded later because Rick was lying. The show has bought itself the right to rewrite its own history indefinitely by leaning on the trauma of one man. The whole is the open license. The whole is the fact that no flashback in the show can be trusted now. The whole is the audience's relationship with the past of the show, which is no longer a stable past, but a set of possibilities the show is free to revise. The audience does not always notice. The audience is busy laughing at jokes. The license is still there. The license is the show. The license is the whole. The 35th plot hole is the one in the Citadel that has been destroyed twice. The Citadel of Ricks. The floating city full of Ricks and Mortys. The Citadel was first introduced in the Season 1 finale as a place. The Citadel was developed across Season 3 in the episode called The Ricklantis Mix-Up, where the audience got to walk through its streets and see how a society of Ricks treats its Mortys, where we met cop Mortys and politician Mortys and factory Mortys and slum Mortys, and the entire urban texture of a city built by men who refuse to believe in cities. That episode is one of the strongest hours the show has ever produced. The audience learned to care about the Citadel as a place. The audience learned to care about the population. Then at the end of that same episode, Evil Morty rigs the election. Evil Morty becomes President Morty. Evil Morty assassinates the entire Council of Ricks. The Citadel does not blow up. The Citadel survives, now under new management. The audience accepts that this is the new status quo. The audience expects the Citadel to come back, under Evil Morty's leadership, as a recurring location. Then in the Season 5 finale, Rick Murray Jack, the Citadel is destroyed entirely. Evil Morty uses the entire Citadel as a weapon to crack the central Finite Curve. The Citadel is consumed in the explosion. Every Rick on the Citadel dies. Every Morty on the Citadel dies. The city the audience walked through, the slums and the factories and the streets, is gone. All of it. The entire population that was built up across multiple episodes is wiped out off screen, with no acknowledgement, with no funeral, with no moment of silence. The show treats it as the cost of evil Morty's plan. The cost is millions of lives. The show does not stop to mark the cost. That is the contradiction. The show spent an entire episode making us care about the Citadel population. The show spent that episode introducing cop Mortys with families, slum Mortys with dreams, factory Mortys with grievances. The show treated the Citadel as a real place with real people. Then the show killed all of them off screen, in service of a different character's emotional arc. The Citadel is gone, the Mortys are gone, the Ricks are gone. The cop Morty who had a partner he loved is gone. The slum Morty who had hope is gone. The factory Morty who had a strike planned is gone. None of them appear again. None of them are mourned. The show used them and discarded them. You can argue this is consistent with the show's worldview. The show treats individual lives across the multiverse as expendable. The show treats death at scale as a joke. The show treats whole societies as backgrounds for Rick's adventures. That reading is fair. That reading also lands a particular kind of weight on the Rick-Lantis mix-up episode, which was the one episode where the show acted as if those lives mattered. The episode lied. The episode said the lives matter. The next time we saw the Citadel, the lives were gone. The episode is now a kind of betrayal in retrospect. The show built a city to be felt for, then erased the city for spectacle. The whole is the disconnect between the episode that asked for empathy and the episode that punished it. The 36th plot hole is the gaseous one, Fart, Morty Night Run, Season 2, Episode 2, the same episode that gave us Krombopulos Michael. Krombopulos Michael's assassination target is a being made of gas, a being that is intelligent, a being that has telepathic abilities, a being that has been held in a Federation prison for some unspecified amount of time. The being introduces itself with a song. The being sings to Morty. The being is called Fart. Morty befriends Fart over the course of the episode. Morty tries to free Fart. Morty discovers at the end of the episode that Fart intends to wipe out all carbon-based life in the universe once it is free, because Fart considers carbon-based life inferior. Morty kills Fart to prevent the wipeout. That is a clean arc. That is also an arc that introduces a category of being the show never returns to. Fart was, by the show's own description, one of an unknown number of gaseous intelligences. The show implies that Fart's people, the species or category to which Fart belongs, are out there somewhere. They have, in Fart's view, a legitimate grievance against carbon-based life. They are silently planning, presumably, the same kind of wipeout that Fart was planning. Morty did not kill the species. Morty killed one of its members. The species is still out there. The show has not returned to it. That is a setup the show treated as a one-shot and left on the table. The gaseous intelligences are still in the universe. The Federation, presumably, still has more of them in prisons. The grievance is still real. The species could come back at any time. The show has not brought them back. The show has not even hinted at them in 7 seasons since. The audience is left to assume the gaseous intelligences are out there, silently, building their case against carbon-based life, and that the show will deal with them when it feels like it. The show has not felt like it. The whole is the introduced species the show has not used. The whole is also the moral weight of Morty's choice in that episode. Morty killed a sentient being who had been wrongly imprisoned. Morty killed that being to prevent a hypothetical genocide. The show treated this as a difficult decision and then never came back to whether the decision was correct. Did Fart actually represent the views of the species? Or was Fart an extremist within the species, like one human terrorist whose views the rest of humanity rejects? The show has not told us. Morty has not asked. Rick has not raised the question. The decision sits there, made, and the consequences of making it have not been written. The whole is the moral aftermath the show wrote into the script and then never staged. The 37th plot hole is the one in the apartment. Claw and Hoarder. Special Rickdim's Morty, Season 4, Episode 4. Rick reveals that he has been keeping a dragon at his apartment, alongside a second apartment full of cats, alongside several other side projects the show has never shown us. The dragon is named Balthramah. The dragon is a sentient being, one of many dragons, with a working society of its own. The dragon is bonded to Morty over the course of the episode. The dragon dies at the end of the episode, in a fight with Rick. That is, on its surface, a one-episode plot. The whole is what the episode reveals about the show. Rick has an apartment. Rick has a second apartment full of cats. Rick has a relationship with the dragon community. Rick has an entire life off-screen that the show has barely shown us. The show has been telling us, for 4 seasons up to that point, that Rick lives in his daughter's garage and goes on adventures with his grandson. The episode reveals that our Rick also has a separate life, with separate friends, with separate species, that the family does not know about, and the audience has not been shown. After that episode, the second life is not mentioned again. The apartment is not mentioned. The cats are not mentioned. The dragon community, despite being a fully realized society we got a glimpse of, is not mentioned. Rick goes back to living in the garage. Rick goes back to going on adventures with Morty. The off-screen life is folded back into the off-screen. The contradiction is the implication that this is not the only second life Rick has. If Rick has an apartment we did not know about, Rick might have other apartments. If Rick has a dragon community we did not know about, Rick might have other communities. The show implies the existence of an entire scaffolding of Rick's off-screen relationships, and then does nothing with that scaffolding. The show is hinting at a vast personal history we will not get to see. The hint is the hole. The hole is the way the show keeps gesturing at depth and refusing to provide it. The dragon is dead. The apartment is empty. The cats are unaccounted for. The audience is asked to forget what the episode told us. The audience forgets because the next episode does not bring any of it back. The hole closes because the show does not return to it. The hole is also still open because the show has never explained why it does not return. The 38th plot hole is the one about the memories Rick keeps in jars. Morty's Mind Blowers. Season 3, Episode 8. Rick reveals that he keeps a vault of memories. The memories are stored in glass jars. The jars are labeled with the dates and circumstances of the memories. The memories were removed from Morty's mind, with Rick's help, because Morty asked for them to be removed. The memories include incidents Morty would rather not remember. The memories also include incidents Rick erased from Morty without asking, to keep Morty manageable. The episode is a parade of those memories. The episode is one of the best of the season. The episode is also a piece of equipment the show treats as a one-off. Rick has memory removal technology. Rick has memory storage technology. Rick can pull a memory from a mind, put it in a jar, and put it back later. That is technology that should change every relationship in the show. Rick should be able to erase Beth's bad memories of her childhood. Rick should be able to erase Jerry's bad memories of being inadequate. Rick should be able to erase Summer's bad memories of being misunderstood. Rick has not done this. Rick has done it once, to Morty, and the episode treated it as a transgression. The transgression is the show's position on the technology. The technology is bad. The technology should not be used. That is fine as a moral position. That is not consistent with the way the show uses memory wipes elsewhere. The show has wiped the president's memory at the end of season 3. The show has wiped the family's memory after various adventures. The show has shown Rick using small memory tricks across multiple seasons. The technology is in use. The technology is in use repeatedly. The episode that established the technology as a violation has not slowed down the technology's use. Rick keeps wiping people. Rick keeps removing memories. The show keeps treating each new instance as if it is a fresh problem. The technology should not be a fresh problem. The technology has a history on the show. The history is in the Mind Blowers episode. The episode is not referenced when the wipes happen later. The hole is the consistency the show could maintain and chooses not to. The 39th plot hole is the one in the duplicates. Multiplicity, Season 5, Episode 2. The episode in which Rick reveals he keeps decoy families. The decoy families are full of decoy Beths, decoy Summers, decoy Mortys, decoy Jerrys. The decoys believe they are the real family. The decoys live decoy lives. The decoys, when threatened, defend themselves, and the children they believe are their children. The episode escalates. The decoys hunt other decoys. The decoys discover they are decoys. The decoys grieve their own non-existence. The episode is a tragedy and a comedy at the same time. By the end of the episode, most of the decoys are dead, but a few have survived, somewhere, scattered across the multiverse. The episode ends with the implication that some of those surviving decoys are still out there. The decoys are real people by their own experience. The decoys have memories. The decoys have loves. The decoys have children. The decoys are, in any meaningful sense, alive. The show has not come back to any of them. The show has not asked what happens to a decoy family that learned it was a decoy and survived. The show has not asked whether those decoys consider themselves Smiths. The show has not asked whether those decoys would, given the chance, try to find the real family and either join them or replace them. The setup is rich. The setup has been left alone. The whole is the abandoned implication. The decoys are alive. The decoys could come back. The decoys could form their own communities. The decoys could be, in some future episode, an antagonist or an ally or a complication. The show has not used them. The fan base, again, has filled in the gap. There are theories about a decoy uprising. There are theories about a decoy society in some forgotten dimension. There are theories about which version of the family we are following being itself a decoy that does not yet know. None of these are confirmed. The episode is a one-off in the canon and an infinite expansion in the fan imagination. The whole is the size of that gap. The 40th plot hole is the one we have been hinting at since the start. Rick's family, Rick's parents, Rick's brother, the original Smith family Rick came from. The show has mentioned, in various episodes, that Rick had a family before Diane. It has mentioned, in various episodes, that Rick had a mother. It has also mentioned, in various episodes, that Rick had a brother. There have been hints at a sister. Across the seasons, we have been shown flashes of Rick's childhood, brief glimpses of a young Rick at a workbench, and a few short looks at older relatives of Rick. The show has never assembled any of this into a coherent picture of where Rick came from. That is a hole that is hidden by being deliberately empty. The audience accepts that Rick is a man who has come from somewhere. The audience also accepts that the somewhere has been kept off screen. The show has, across many seasons, gestured at Rick's family of origin. The show has not committed to a single version of that origin. The flashbacks contradict each other. The references contradict each other. Sometimes Rick's mother is alive. Sometimes Rick's mother is dead. Sometimes Rick has a brother who is also a Rick. Sometimes Rick has a brother who is not a Rick. Sometimes Rick's father was a scientist. Sometimes Rick's father was a poor man. The show is not telling us. The show has decided not to tell us. You can argue that is intentional. Rick is unknowable on purpose. Rick's past is a black box on purpose. Rick is a man whose history would deflate the mystery if it were fully shown. That argument is the show's argument. That argument is also a way of saying, the show does not have a coherent past for Rick. The show is making it up as it goes. The show is keeping the past flexible, so that future writers can do whatever they want with it. The flexibility is a kind of generosity to the future. The flexibility is also a way of refusing to commit to anything. The whole is the absence of a coherent origin. The absence is large because Rick is the center of the show. Every other character is, in some sense, a satellite around Rick. Rick has no center of his own that we can point to. Rick orbits a missing point. The missing point is the family Rick came from. The family is not on the show. The family will probably never be on the show in full. The show has built itself around the absence. The absence is the show. The 41st plot hole is the one about the man who can never hold a job. Jerry. Jerry Smith has had, across the run of the show, a list of careers that do not assemble into a coherent professional life. In the early seasons, Jerry is an advertising executive. He pitches campaigns. He works at an agency. He has a boss. He has coworkers. He has the kind of office life that any sitcom dad might have. By later seasons, Jerry is unemployed. After that, he turns up as a department store greeter. Later still, he is a stay-at-home father. In another stretch, Jerry is something else. Something the show does not name very precisely. A man with a small income from sources we are not shown. For a brief moment, he is employed by Rick. For an even briefer moment, he is employed by the Galactic Federation during the Season 3 premiere Fallout. By the end of it all, Jerry is once again unemployed. The pattern does not add up to a person who has a working professional life across 7 seasons. That is not by itself a whole. Plenty of people change jobs. The whole is that the show does not track Jerry's careers in any meaningful way. The advertising executive Jerry from the first season is referenced in some later episodes. as if he is still an advertising executive. The unemployed Jerry from later seasons is referenced as if he has been unemployed for years. The show pulls whichever version of Jerry's career history is convenient for the episode in question. The continuity is loose. The continuity is so loose that the audience cannot reliably say what Jerry does for a living at any given point in the show. The audience cannot reliably say how Jerry pays his share of the household expenses. The audience cannot reliably say whether Beth is the sole provider, whether Jerry contributes, whether the family has savings, whether the family has debt. The show waves all of this away. The show has bigger things to worry about than Jerry's tax return. The audience accepts that the show has bigger things to worry about. The audience also accepts, by accepting, that Jerry is a man without a clear life. Jerry is the only main character whose professional history is unstable in a basic way across the run of the show. Beth is a veterinarian. Beth has always been a veterinarian. Beth's professional identity has been a fixed point in the show. Morty is a high school student. Morty has always been a high school student. Summer is a high school student. Summer has always been a high school student. Rick is a scientist. Rick has always been a scientist. Jerry is, depending on the episode, one of 7 different things. None of the 7 adds up to the others. The fan base has tried to assemble Jerry's career history. The fan base has produced timelines. The timelines do not work. The timelines either assume Jerry has been in a constant state of career instability throughout the run of the show, which would make him a more interesting character than the show actually portrays him as, or the timelines assume the show has simply been writing Jerry differently in different episodes, which is the truer answer but the less satisfying one. The whole is the lack of a Jerry the audience can hold in mind across seasons. The whole is the fact that Jerry is a different man in every episode, professionally, while the show pretends he is the same man. The 40-second plot hole is the one about the season that was about a hunt. Season 6. The season the show set up as Rick's hunt for the man who killed his original wife. Rick Prime. Rick Prime was introduced as the killer of Diane in flashbacks earlier in the show. Rick Prime was revealed, more fully, in the 6th season opener, as the antagonist Rick has been searching for across his entire adult life. The 6th season was structured around the hunt. Episodes built up Rick's preparation. Episodes built up Rick's tools. Episodes built up the emotional weight of what was coming. The audience was promised, by the structure of the season, that the hunt would end somewhere significant. The hunt ended in the 6th season finale, and the ending was unsatisfying in a way the show has not yet fully addressed. Rick finds Rick Prime. Rick fights Rick Prime. Rick wins. Rick Primes is killed. The killing happens in a single episode. The killing happens with relatively little ceremony. The killing happens, in fact, off-screen for some of its key moments, with Rick standing over the body and offering a few quiet lines about closure. The largest antagonist the show has ever set up died in a way that did not match the build-up. The whole is the disproportion between the setup and the payoff. The hunt was a long burn. The end was a short pop. The audience that was promised a major reckoning got a competent action sequence and a brief monologue. The show has not addressed why the end was so brief. The show has not staged the emotional aftermath of the kill in the depth the kill seemed to require. Rick should be a changed man after killing the man who killed his wife. Rick is, in the episodes after the kill, only slightly changed. Rick still drinks. Rick still works in the garage. Rick still complains about Jerry. The kill that was supposed to define a man does not seem to have defined him. You can argue this is the point. You can argue Rick has been hollowed out by the chase. Maybe Rick does not know how to be a man without an enemy. Maybe the show is making a sophisticated point about how revenge does not fix the revenger. None of those arguments are made in the text of the show as clearly as they could be. The show kills Rick Prime, and the show moves on, and the show acts as if the hole in Rick's life has been filled, but the hole has not been filled, because the show has not earned the fill. The hunt was longer than the resolution. The proportions are off. The hole is the gap between what was promised and what was delivered. The fan base has been arguing about this since the finale aired. The show has not engaged with the argument. The 43rd plot hole is the one about the 2 Beths. The cloning reveal in the Season 3 finale set up an arrangement where there could be 2 Beths. The 4th season finale paid that off, with Space Beth and Earth Beth both appearing on screen, in the same scene, together, with the family. The two Beths agreed to coexist. The two Beths agreed not to know which was the clone. The two Beths agreed to share the family. That was a satisfying ending to an arc that had been building since the third season. The implementation of that arrangement, across the seasons that followed, has been incoherent. Space Beth appears in some episodes. Earth Beth appears in other episodes. The two Beths sometimes appear together. The two Beths sometimes appear separately. The show does not always make clear which Beth is on screen. The show sometimes seems to forget that there are two Beths and writes a scene as if there is only one. The show sometimes acknowledges both Beths and writes scenes around the difference. The audience cannot tell, with confidence, in any given episode, which Beth is doing what. The audience cannot tell, with confidence, whether the kids are interacting with their mother, or with their mother's clone, or with both at once. That is a piece of the show's continuity that should be carefully tracked. The show has not carefully tracked it. The show has at times treated the two Beths as fungible. The show has at times treated them as separate. The show has not committed to one approach. The result is that the marriage between Beth and Jerry, which has been a major emotional engine of the show, is now in some unclear state where it might be one marriage or two with two slightly different women, or it might be one marriage with one woman who is sometimes here and sometimes in space. The audience cannot tell. The fan base has tried to keep score. There are sites that track which Beth appears in which episode. The tracking does not always work because the show does not always provide enough information. The audience is sometimes simply told it is Beth without specifying which one. The whole is the lost specificity. The whole is the way the show solved a continuity problem by creating a worse one. Two Beths was meant to be a resolution. Two Beths is now a complication the show is barely managing. The marriage cannot survive forever in this configuration. Something will have to break. The show has not broken it yet. The hole sits open, the way a kitchen door sits open in a house, where two women are sometimes in the kitchen at the same time, and sometimes are not, and you cannot tell from outside which woman is in there. The 44th plot hole is the one about the survivor, Noob Noob, the only Vindicator who lived through drunk Rick's traps. Noob Noob, a small green creature with a single line of dialogue and a sympathetic face, was treated as a joke in the third season episode about the Vindicators. Rick liked Noob Noob. Rick spared Noob Noob. Noob Noob walked out of the base alive while every other Vindicator was dead. The episode ended with Rick promising Noob Noob that he would, one day, get Noob Noob the recognition Noob Noob deserved. That was a setup. That was a promise. The promise has not been kept. Noob Noob has not appeared again in any meaningful capacity. He has not been brought back as a recurring side character. He has not been given the moment of recognition Rick promised him. As far as the casual viewer can tell, he has not even been mentioned in any episode after his introduction. The setup is in the third season. The payoff is nowhere. The promise hangs. That is part of a larger pattern in the show. The show keeps making promises inside moments. The show keeps not keeping them. The show keeps relying on the audience to forget. The audience does not always forget. Noob Noob has a small but devoted fan base. The fan base has been waiting. They have made shirts. They have made fan art. They want to see Noob Noob get his party. The party has not happened. The party will probably not happen because the show has moved on, because the writers have moved on, because the moment has, by the fans' own honest assessment, passed. The whole is the dropped promise. The whole is the way the show treats its own setups as disposable. The whole is the small green creature waiting, somewhere, in a Vindicator base, for the recognition he was promised. Knowing that the man who promised him has been busy with other things. Knowing that the man who promised him is unlikely to come back. Noob Noob is one example. There are many others. The show is full of small green creatures waiting for parties that will not be thrown. The 45th plot hole is one the show makes again and again and never fixes, because the show needs the move too badly to stop making it. The pattern of the one-shot villain. The villain who is introduced as a major threat, who is given an entire episode of build-up, who is treated by the characters as a serious problem, and who is then either killed off or written out of the show before the next episode begins. The list is long. Concerto, the dolphin-obsessed crime lord from the 5th season episode about Rick wanting to die alone, is introduced with the energy of a recurring antagonist. He has henchmen, He has a base, he has a personal story, he has a rivalry with Rick, he is on screen for one episode, he dies in his own pool, he does not come back. The Ice King's analog in the 5th season episode about the bird-themed superhero. The villain in the Vindicators episode, World Ender, who was supposed to be the focus of the episode, and then becomes a footnote. Planetina, the elemental hero in the 5th season episode about Morty falling in love with her, who is built up as a serious recurring character with a complicated activist history, and who is then never seen again. The pattern repeats, the show introduces, the show invests, the show abandons. That is not by itself a plot hole. That is a stylistic preference. The plot hole is what the show pretends about its own world. The show keeps acting as if this is a universe with persistence. The show keeps inviting the audience to take the new characters seriously. The show keeps building stakes around them. The show then walks away from them. The audience learns over time not to invest. The audience learns over time that no new character introduced this week will matter next week. The audience adapts. The audience stops caring about new villains in real time. The show then has to work harder to make any new villain feel important, because the audience has been trained not to trust the show's promises about importance. That is a hole that has changed the way the show has to be watched. The hole is the audience's calibration. The audience, after 7 seasons, is calibrated to a show that pretends every new character matters, and then proves every week that no new character does. The calibration is the texture of the show now. The calibration is also the reason it is hard to introduce a new villain who lands. The reason Evil Morty landed is that Evil Morty was not new. Evil Morty had been built up across 4 seasons of small appearances. The audience had time to invest before the show could betray the investment. Every villain who has been 1 episode large has had to fight against the audience's reasonable assumption that this villain will not matter past the credits. The show has not always won that fight. The show has often not even tried. The whole is the trail of villains the show invented, used once and put down. Planetina was meant to be more than that. The fans wrote about her for months. The show wrote nothing more about her. The whole is the silence after each one of them. The 46th plot hole is the one in the wedding that almost no one talks about. Tammy, Birdperson's wife, the Federation agent. The audience meets Tammy in season 1, very briefly, as a high school senior who happens to be at one of Rick's parties. She is a normal teenage girl, in a normal teenage body, with a normal teenage life. She and Birdperson begin a relationship sometime after that episode, off-screen. By season 2, Birdperson and Tammy are in love. By the season 2 finale, they are getting married. At the wedding, Tammy stands up at the altar, in front of all of Rick's friends, and reveals that she has been a Federation deep cover agent since the beginning. Her teenage life was the cover. Her relationship with Birdperson was the trap. Her age, even, is not what it appeared to be. She is, the show implies, older than her cover suggested. She is, the show implies, dangerous in ways the cover hid. That is one of the more startling twists the show has done. That is also a twist that does not fully line up with what the audience saw earlier. The audience watched Tammy at the season 1 party. The audience watched her interact with Summer, with Morty, with the other teenagers. The audience saw her as a teenage girl, played as a teenage girl, written as a teenage girl. Then the audience is told retroactively that she was never a teenage girl. She was an undercover agent the whole time. The episodes before the reveal have to be rewatched with this new information. The rewatch does not entirely work. Tammy in those early episodes behaves like a teenager. Tammy in those early episodes has teenage concerns. Tammy in those early episodes has teenage relationships. The undercover agent reveal makes those early scenes feel staged. But the early scenes were not written as staged. The early scenes were written as a normal teenage girl having normal teenage moments. The reveal asks the audience to revise its memory of those scenes. The revision does not fit cleanly. Either Tammy is a very dedicated undercover agent who maintains her cover with the level of detail required to be totally indistinguishable from a real teenager, in which case, her later villain monologues, where she gloats about how she fooled everyone, ring a little hollow. Or Tammy was not a Federation agent in those earlier episodes, and became one later, and the reveal at the wedding was the show retroactively rewriting her history. The show has not told us which, the fan base argues. The whole is the question of when Tammy became Tammy. The whole is the question of whether anything we saw of her was real. There is another piece of this that does not get talked about much. After the wedding, Tammy is at the center of every Federation operation the audience sees. Tammy runs the prison where Rick is held. Tammy runs the operation to retrieve Birdperson's body. Tammy is, for a stretch of the show, the face of the Federation. Then the Federation falls. Then Tammy is presumably out of a job. Then Tammy reappears in the 4th season finale on what is, in plain terms, a personal vendetta against Rick. She is not Federation anymore. She is just a woman with a grudge. Beth shoots her. She dies. She has not returned. Birdperson, brought back to life in the 6th season, has not been told that his wife is dead. Or if he has, the show has not staged that scene. The audience does not know how Birdperson took the news that his wife, the woman who betrayed him at his own wedding, the woman whose betrayal is the reason he died and was rebuilt as a cyborg, is dead. We do not know if he grieves her. We do not know if he hates her still. We do not know if he has made peace. The show has not staged the conversation. The whole is the missing scene. The whole is the way the show treats Tammy's death as a small line item, when Tammy was, for a stretch of 2 seasons, the largest antagonist in the show. The 47th plot hole is the one about the green liquid, the portal fluid, the substance that makes a portal gun work. The show, in its early episodes, treats portal fluid as Rick's particular invention. The show treats Rick as the inventor. The show treats the formula as something only Rick knows. Other people, the show implies, would have to build it from scratch if they wanted to portal, and only a Rick could do that. The Council of Ricks works around this by having every Rick share the formula with every other Rick. The Mortys in those early episodes do not have portal guns of their own. The Mortys cannot portal. The portal is a Rick thing. Then in later seasons, the portal becomes less Rick exclusive. Evil Morty acquires portal access. The Federation, at one point, demonstrates portal capability. The Galactic Federation prisons, when the Federation falls, are revealed to have portal technology of their own. Various aliens across various episodes turn out to have portal devices. The portal, by the 7th season, is no longer a Rick monopoly. The portal is a common piece of advanced technology. Anyone with the right knowledge and the right resources can do it. That is fine, technologically. That is also a contradiction with the early lore, which made the portal the thing that distinguished Rick from every other being in the universe. If everyone can portal, then Rick is not the only one who can travel between dimensions. If Rick is not the only one who can travel between dimensions, then the Council of Ricks, which is built on the premise that only Ricks can travel between dimensions, is built on a shaky foundation. The Council of Ricks is supposed to be the gathering of every dimensional traveler in the multiverse. If aliens can portal too, why are aliens not on the Council? If the Federation has portal technology, why does the Federation need to use anything else to threaten Rick? The lore drifts. The drift is the show responding to its own success. The show needed to keep upping the stakes. The show needed more characters to be able to chase Rick across dimensions. So the show silently expanded who could do what. The early constraint became a later non-constraint. The whole is the drift. The drift is the show. The 48th plot hole is the one in the marketing campaign, Wormageddon. The interactive event the show ran across the 6th and 7th seasons, where giant worm sculptures were placed in real cities around the world, where fans could go visit them, where there was a phone number to call and lore to discover, and a slow building plot that was meant to lead, eventually, into the show's canon. Wormageddon was, in the most basic sense, an alternate reality game tied to the show. It was good marketing. It was clever fan engagement. It was, in some way, supposed to matter. The question is whether it matters in the canon of the show. Wormageddon involves a worm god named Glorzo, who was set up across many sculpture locations as a being who would arrive in the show eventually. Glorzo did appear in an episode. Glorzo had a small recurring role. Glorzo did not become the major figure that the marketing campaign implied he would become. The lore the campaign built, which involved a backstory for Glorzo that was hundreds of hours long if you assembled it from all the phone calls and the sculpture locations, has not been fully translated into the show. The campaign exists in a strange middle place. The campaign is canon in some sense, because the show acknowledges it. The campaign is not canon in another sense, because the show does not actually use most of what the campaign set up. The audience, especially the audience that participated in Warmageddon, is left holding a story that the show has not fully accepted. The audience went to the cities. The audience called the numbers. The audience pieced together the lore. The audience now waits to see if any of it pays off. The payoff has been small. The show treats Glorzo as a minor character. The campaign treated Glorzo as a major one. The two registers do not match. The whole is the gap between the marketing and the show. The gap is the kind of gap that only matters to the most invested fans, but it matters a lot to those fans. The show owes the audience that did the work. The show has not paid out the debt. The show may never pay out the debt. The campaign was, for many of those fans, a promise the show made. The promise has been only partly kept. The whole is the partial keeping. The 49th plot hole is the one in the rules of time travel. The show, in its first season, declared that time travel is a thing Rick refuses to do. Rick says, on camera, that time travel is too complicated to bother with, and that he prefers dimensional travel because the rules are cleaner. The audience accepts that. The audience accepts that Rick has, at some point in his off-screen past, looked into time travel and decided against it. Then in the second season episode Morty Night Run, the show shows us a side game in an arcade called Roy. A life well lived, where the player lives an entire human life inside a helmet in compressed time. That is not literal time travel. That is a simulation that compresses time. The two are not the same. The episode treats them as similar enough to make the audience wonder. Then in later seasons, the show does several episodes that involve, in some form, the manipulation of time. There is an episode about a time crystal. There is an episode about a frozen time field. There is an episode where Rick uses a slow time effect to do extended work in a moment of normal time. There is the entire premise of the death crystals, which is, at minimum, a glimpse into possible futures. Rick is using time. Rick is, at the very least, dealing with time in ways that should violate his early position. The show does not address the violation. The show treats each of these episodes as if it is the first time anyone has touched time. The show acts as if Rick is still on his original position about time travel, even as Rick uses time travel adjacent technology in episode after episode. The whole is the dropped rule. The whole is the position the show abandoned without saying so. The whole is the gap between what Rick said in Season 1 and what Rick has been doing since Season 2. The fans have noticed. The fans have written long forum posts. The show has not weighed in. Rick still has the same position. In dialogue, when the question comes up, Rick acts in those moments as if he has never bent on the issue. Rick has bent on the issue many times. The show is letting Rick lie to the audience about his own behavior. The audience accepts the lie because the audience loves Rick. The lie is still a lie. The whole is the unaddressed pile of evidence on Rick's own workbench. You are still with channel name. We are close to the end now. If the lights have stayed low, and the room has stayed soft, and the words have done their job, the hours are almost over. The next breakdown like this one finds you faster if you have left the bell turned on. And the comments are where the next topic will come from, because the channel listens to what the audience wants to hear next. Thank you for staying. The last hole is the one that holds all the others. The last hole is what the show actually is. The 50th plot hole is not a hole. The 50th plot hole is the pattern. The 50th plot hole is the recognition that every hole we have walked through tonight has the same shape. The Meeseeks broke their own rule because the writers needed the chaos. The Cronenberg dimension was abandoned because the writers wanted a fresh family. The Council of Ricks did not rescue Rick because the writers wanted a Federation arc. Operation Phoenix produced bodies that the show does not refer to because the writers wanted Rick to feel mortal. Morty's brainwave cloak is not consistent because the writers wanted Rick to spend time with Summer and Jerry. The parasite rule was broken because the writers needed the joke about Mr. Poopy Butthole. The Beth clone was created and then forgotten because the writers wanted to keep both Beths alive. Unity disappeared because the writers had nothing more to say about her. The microverse keeps running because the writers do not want to free it. Wubba Lubba Dub Dub stopped being said because the writers wanted the show to be lighter again. Birdperson came back because the writers missed him. Tammy is dead because the writers were done with her. The Federation is defeated and also still around because the writers want both. Snowball never came back because the writers forgot about him. The toxic merge was contradicted because the writers wanted Rick to keep growing. The vat of acid device is in a drawer because the writers do not want the device available to fix problems. The Pickle Rick Gambit is a confession the writers only wanted to make once. The Vindicators died because the writers are not interested in superhero ensembles. Beth's space adventure was forgotten because the writers want the family to stay a family. The Death Crystals are in a drawer because the writers want Morty to be unpredictable. The true Morty has not been revealed because the writers do not know what to do with the prophecy. The Roy connection has not been confirmed because the writers do not want to commit. Nimbus does not run the police because the writers do not want him to. Phoenix Person's kills are uncounted because the writers want Birdperson back. The Snake Society does not exist except when the writers need a joke about snakes. The Mr. Frundle's abandonment is not felt because the writers want a clean season 7. The Story Lord is in a cell because the writers have used the meta gimmick and put it back. Squanchy is alive because the writers like him. The Federation tech is in use because the writers need texture. The central finite curve is broken, and the world has not changed because the writers do not know what comes after. The Smith family is intact because the writers need it to be. The president's memory wipe is total because the writers need it to be. Diane keeps changing because the writers keep finding new angles on her. The one-shot villains are forgettable because the writers need fresh ones every week. Tammy's history is incoherent because the writers turned her late. The portal fluid is everywhere because the writers needed it to be. Wormageddon is half canon because the writers do not want to commit to it. Time travel is forbidden except when the writers want it. Every hole is a writer's room decision. Every hole is the show choosing the joke over the world, the moment over the structure, the laugh over the consequence. Every hole is the show saying, with its body language, that this is what it cares about, and the audience can either come along or not. The audience has come along. The show has been on the air for over a decade. The holes have been with us the entire time. The holes are not a flaw in the show. The holes are the texture of the show. You can love a show with holes in it. You can love a show because of the holes in it. The holes are where the audience lives. The holes are where the fan theories live. The holes are where the comment sections live. The holes are where the rewatches live. A show with no holes would have nothing for the audience to do once the credits roll. The audience would watch and walk away. A show with holes invites the audience to come back, to look again, to argue, to fix things in their own heads, to write fan fiction, to start podcasts, to make these videos. The holes are the work the show makes available to the people who love it. That is the way the show has always been. The pilot opened with a man dragging his grandson out of bed without explaining anything. The show began as a series of holes, each one inviting the audience to fill in the background. The show has been doing that ever since. The audience has been filling in the background ever since. The show is not, in any traditional sense, a finished thing. The show is a kind of ongoing collaboration between writers who throw out premises and an audience that refuses to let them go. Tonight we walk through 50 of those holes. There are more. There will be more. As long as the show is on, the show will leave new holes for new audiences to find. The show will not fix the old ones. The show will not address the old ones. The show will keep moving. The fans will keep looking. The holes will keep being holes. The pile of contradictions we have walked through tonight is large because the show is large. The wedding has come and gone. The clones have come and gone. The dimensions have come gone. The families have been replaced and replaced and replaced. The friends have died and risen. The villains have arrived and left. The rules have been set and broken and set again. None of it adds up to a clean world. All of it adds up to a show that has been on the air for over a decade, that has refused, again and again, to commit to its own foundation, that has built one of the most successful animated series of the century, out of the willingness to throw away its own premises whenever a better joke comes along. The mess is the show is the mess, the audience is the keeper of the holes. The holes are the work we have been doing for 10 years. The work is not finished. The show is still on the air. The next season is coming. There will be a new dimension to abandon. There will be a new dead friend to mourn. There will be a new villain to throw away. Another rule will be set up and broken. There will be more holes to fill in our own heads, in the soft hours when the show is over, and the room is dark, and the next episode is many months away. There is one more thought to leave you with before the night ends. The show, when it began in 2013, was something a lot of people picked up on by accident. The pilot was strange, the animation was rough, the premise was familiar, but the execution was sharp in a way the audience had not seen on a Cartoon Network in a long time. The show found its audience. The audience grew. The audience became a community. The community became a culture. The culture became, within a few years, the thing the show is reacting to in every episode now. The show is not the same show it was in season 1, because the show is now writing for an audience that knows every line, every callback, every reference. The audience has gotten smarter. The show has had to get stranger. The strangeness has shown up in the holes. When the audience was small, the holes did not matter. The pilot left half its setup unexplained. The second episode left Snowball on a planet and never came back. The third episode invented a microverse and forgot about it. The audience, in those early days, was not large enough to notice. The show could leave things on the table because no one was counting. The audience was watching, laughing, having a good time, not building a wiki. The wiki came later. The wiki came as the audience grew. The wiki tracks every character, every episode, every line. The wiki has pages for Snowball, and pages for Roy, and pages for Krombopulos Michael, and pages for the true Morty, and pages for every minor character the show has invented. The wiki notices the holes. The wiki documents the holes. The wiki has been documenting the holes for over a decade. The show has been ignoring the wiki for just as long. That standoff between a show that does not care and an audience that cares enormously is the current shape of the relationship between Rick and Morty and the people watching it. You are one of the people watching. You have been one of the people watching for some part of that decade. You may be one of the people who has read the wiki. You may be one of the people who has written about the holes on a forum, or in a comment section, or in your own head. You may have been on the side of the audience that wanted the show to come back to unity. Or you may have been on the side that wanted the show to forget about her. Some of you wanted Birdperson to stay dead. Others wanted him back. The audience is large enough now to contain every position on every hole, and the show has to write for all of those positions, and the show cannot, by writing for all of them, satisfy any of them. That is the show's current problem. The show is trying to please an audience that no longer agrees with itself. The audience has split into factions. The factions have favorites. The favorites do not always line up. So the show writes around the disagreement. The show keeps the holes open because closing a hole would commit to one faction over another, and the show cannot afford to lose any of them. The holes are the show's way of staying in the middle. The holes are the show's way of not picking sides. The holes are the show's way of letting every faction continue to believe its own version of the world is the right one. You can love that or hate it. You can find it generous or cowardly. You can call it artistic restraint, or you can call it not committing. The show is doing what it is doing. The show has been doing it for a decade. The show will do it for as long as the show is on the air. The next season will leave new holes. The season after that will leave more. The audience will keep gathering. The audience will keep arguing. The wiki will keep growing. The show will keep moving without looking back. And on nights like this one, when the room is soft and the lights are low and the video is on in the background, the holes are a comfort. The holes are something to settle into. The holes are something to fall asleep with. The unanswered questions of a long-running show are a soft place to rest. The mystery does not have to be solved tonight. The mystery does not have to be solved at all. The mystery is the show. The show is the company you are keeping while you fall asleep. The company is enough. There is something about a show with holes that feels more honest than a show without them. A show without holes is a show that has decided everything in advance. A show without holes is a show that has worked out its own world before letting you in. A show with holes is a show that is still being made, in some sense, while you are watching it. The writers are still figuring out what they think. The characters are still doing things the writers cannot fully justify. The world is still settling. The show is still growing, even when it is failing to grow in a consistent direction. The growth is real. The inconsistency is the cost of the growth. The cost is the hole. The hole is the place where the show was honest with itself. about not having figured something out yet. That kind of honesty is rare. A lot of shows pretend to have figured everything out. A lot of shows pretend their writers had a master plan from the start. A lot of shows pretend the world they are building is internally consistent and waiting to be revealed in full. Rick and Morty has never made that pretense. Rick and Morty has admitted, in interview after interview, that the writers are making it up. The making up is on screen. The making up is the texture. The making up is the show. The fact that the audience has stayed with the show through 10 years of making up is one of the strange, small miracles of modern television. You are part of that miracle. You are part of the audience that has stayed. You have come to this video on this night because some part of you wanted to spend the next 2 hours in the company of a show that has been with you for a decade. The show in some way has been with you longer than a lot of other things in your life. The show was here when you were a different person than you are now. The show will be here when you are a different person again. The show will keep accumulating holes. The holes will keep accumulating you. The two of you, the show and you, are growing together with a lot of unresolved things between you. And that is what a long relationship with anything looks like. For now, the lights stay low, the room stays soft, the breathing slows. The night settles in around you, the way the show settles in around its own contradictions, without comment, without apology, without any need to be more than what it is. The next breath is the only thing left to do. The next breath, and then the next, and then the rest. The video has been on for almost 2 hours. Whether you have been awake for all of it, or for none of it does not matter. The holes are still here. The holes will be here when you come back. The show will keep building them. The audience will keep finding them. The next breakdown will come. If you enjoyed this video, leaving the channel a like helps a lot, and the subscribe button will bring the next one to you when it is ready. Thank you for spending the night with channel name. Sleep well. The holes will keep.